Chapter 2478. Upon hearing that, many disciples of the academy present turned their heads and countless gazes landed on Su Zimo at the same time. Senior brother Su destroyed magnificent Thunder City in the state of Jin alone? Everyone had different expressions. Some were surprised, some were shocked, and some were doubtful. This can't be. Although senior brother Su has a feud with Duke Yuanzhua, he's only a stage 6 heaven immortal. Could it be that he went to the state of Jin alone to kill Yuanzhua and destroy the city? Even if senior brother Su has the ability to destroy magnificent Thunder City, how did he escape from the state of Jin? Mingzhi, Gui Yuan, and the others were about to attack Su Zimo, but when they heard the news, they were secretly shocked and fearful. They did not dare to act rashly. Although they did not dare to believe it, such important news should not be fabricated. If this was true, Su Zimo could destroy magnificent Thunder City alone and kill hundreds of heaven immortal experts. Then they would not be able to defeat him even if they joined forces. This also meant that Su Zimo's threat was not a bluff. One of the academy disciples frowned and asked, "Is this true?" Junior brother Zhao quickly nodded and said, "It's absolutely true. The news has already spread in the divine firmament immortal realm." "Why are you holding the heaven list in your hand?" Another person asked. Junior brother Zhao said, "Senior brother Su became famous in one battle and is now on the heaven list." "What's his rank?" 17th. Many disciples of the academy were shocked, and their faces were full of shock. With a stage 6 heaven immortal cultivation, he was ranked 17th on the heaven list. It could be said that apart from Fang Qingyun, Su Zimo was the second highest ranked heaven immortal in Qiankuan Academy. He was even above Yan Bingying. What was even more ironic was that Fang Qingyun, the top inner sect disciple of the academy and predicted to be 10th on the heaven list, was now covered in blood and had disheveled hair. He was being carried by Su Zimo and could not resist at all. Not to mention others, even Su Zimo was a little surprised when he heard the ranking. In magnificent Thunder City, apart from Duke Yuanzhua, who was a heaven immortal on the heaven list, there were no other top heaven immortals. Although the commotion caused by that battle wasn't small, it actually didn't reflect anything. Under normal circumstances, any one of the top 70 prodigies on the heaven leaderboard would have the ability to do so. It was just that no one dared to do such a thing. Su Zimo originally thought that after this battle, he would be on the predicted heaven list, but his ranking would not be higher than 60 or 70. Who would have thought that he would be ranked 17th on the prediction heaven list? Yan Bingying calmed down the initial shock in her heart. She frowned slightly and said with some confusion, "Even if senior brother Su destroyed the Thunder City, his ranking can't be so high, right?" "Senior sister Yan is right." Junior martial brother Zhao said, "Senior martial brother Su is ranked 17th because of another battle." After a pause, junior brother Zhao said hesitantly, "To be precise, that didn't seem to be a battle." Everyone was confused by his words. "Show us your latest prediction of the heaven ranking in the air," Mingzhi said in a deep voice. This junior martial brother Zhao hurriedly cast a spell and unfolded this freshly made prediction heavenly ranking. The contents inside were reflected in midair, making it extremely clear. Everyone roughly glanced at it. The original prediction heaven list had just been released not long ago. Compared to the previous version, there were not many changes overall. The most obvious change was that Duke Yuanzhua's name had been removed from the prediction heaven list. And the 17th place on the prediction heaven list was indeed Su Zimo's name. Name, Su Zimo. Realm, Stage 6 Heaven Immortal. Identity, Inner Disciple of Qiankuan Academy, Inheritor of Astral Sex Secret Technique, Inheritor of Jade Purity. After the confrontation at Green Cloud Mountain, it was no longer a secret that Su Zimo had Jade Purity. Battle record, 8,000 years ago when he was a Stage 5 Heaven Immortal, he relied on a time divine power to defeat the number 1 Heaven Immortal in Jade Firmament Immortal Domain's Langfeng City, Baiyu. After cultivating to Stage 6 Heaven Immortal, he went down the mountain again and snuck into Thunder City alone. He killed Duke Yuanzhua and hundreds of heaven immortal experts, burned Thunder City to the ground, and escaped unscathed. In all fairness, There were only 2 battles in the battle record section, which was not eye-catching. Many experts on the prediction heaven list had at least a dozen battles in the battle record section, and some even had hundreds of battles. The tens of thousands of words were extremely shocking. Su Zimo's battle record was a whole lot worse than the top 20 heaven immortals. Even compared to Yan Bingying, who was ranked 43rd, his battle record was a little weaker. Many disciples of the academy frowned and looked confused. They did not know how Su Zimo could be ranked 17th. Everyone continued to browse. The last section was the evaluation of Su Zimo by the perfected immortal who managed the heaven list of the Divine Firmament Palace. Unexpectedly, the evaluation was voluminous and extremely detailed, and it actually took up far more space than the other cultivators. Evaluation. This kid was already famous when he was an Earth immortal and won the first place of the Earth list. He has great potential and many trump cards. He has no obvious weaknesses in divine powers, spells, and close combat. He has mastered the heavenly kill and earthly kill sword techniques, a sound domain secret technique similar to the dragon's roar and the true dragon's 9 flashes. He is good at a divine power secret technique that increases his strength. He knows the supreme profound spirit Big Dipper Sutra. His primordial spirit is extremely powerful, far beyond his peers. He has mastered many primordial spirit secret techniques. Although this lad has displayed his powerful combat strength in the heavenly immortal stage in the 2 battles in Thunder City and Wind City, his cultivation is not high. He is only a 6th level heavenly immortal. Therefore, it is predicted that the upper limit of the heavenly rankings will not be too high. In the first version of the prediction heaven list, Yun Ting was ranked 3rd because he was a stage 8 heaven immortal and had not reached the peak of heaven immortal. On the heaven list, the overall strength was evaluated, and one's cultivation was an extremely important criterion. The evaluation given by the Divine Firmament Palace was not over yet. Everyone continued to read. However, near Grey Cloud Mountain, this kid once dodged Shadowless's fatal blow and saved his life. That was not considered a battle, so it was not recorded in the record. If not for this assassination, this kid's ranking should be between 65 and 70. However, because he dodged the assassination, we all think that he should be in the top 20 of the heaven list. The Divine Firmament Palace's evaluation of Su Zimo only ended there. The true immortal of the Divine Firmament Palace roughly explained the reason for this ranking. However, many of the Academy's disciples were still confused. Who is Shadowless? Many of the Academy's inner disciples did not know who Shadowless was, nor did they understand how he could increase his ranking by so much after dodging the assassination. Someone said, Shadowless is one of the 3 sword immortals of the Divine Firmament immortal domain. The other 2 are Spring Breeze Sword from the Imperial Wind Monastery and Senior Brother Yuehua from our academy. Think about it. If Senior Brother Yuehua attacked you with his sword, what are your chances of survival? Hearing this, everyone gradually understood why the Divine Firmament Palace would give such a high evaluation of the assassination that was not recorded in the record. The assassination had increased Su Zimo's ranking on the prediction heaven list by 50 places. Not only that, another person said, Shadowless, also known as Shadowless Sword, is the most terrifying assassin among the true immortals of the 9 heavens immortal domain. His sword strikes without a shadow and without a trace. When Shadowless Sword strikes, even a true immortal at the Dongshu stage would be doomed. Chapter 2479. High up in the sky. The Moonlight Sword immortal frowned slightly. The development of the situation was somewhat beyond her expectations. Shaoli grinned slightly and said, to think that this Su Zimo really has some skills to be able to escape alive from the Shadowless Sword. Shaoli knew that even he did not have the confidence to survive against the Shadowless Sword. The Moonlight Sword immortal snorted coldly. He was just lucky. Shadowless must have underestimated him. If he had attacked with his full strength, there's no way he could have survived. That's right. Shaoli hurriedly agreed. In reality, for a top assassin like Shadowless, he would go all out regardless of the opponent's strength. Even a lion would go all out to capture a rabbit to be absolutely safe. The Moonlight Sword Immortal and Shaoli did not know that not only did Shadowless attack with his full strength, he even suffered a huge loss. Because of Su Zimo's counterattack, Shadowless lost a total of 60,000 years of his lifespan. At that time, only Su Zimo and Shadowless could sense this change. If the perfected immortals of Divine Firmament Palace knew about this, Su Zimo's ranking would probably rise and he would enter the top 10 of the heaven ranking. Senior brother, look over there. The inner sect's disciplinary elder is here. Shaoli pointed to the east. Then, his expression changed. Yang Ruoxu is here too. Come, let's go over too. The Moonlight Sword Immortal walked over calmly. What's going on? The disciplinary elder of the inner sect, Elder Chen, descended. His face darkened when he saw this scene. Mingzhi and Gui Yuan hurried forward when they saw Elder Chen. They recounted the entire incident to him. Su Zimo, why aren't you releasing him? Elder Chen said sternly, private fights are not allowed in the academy. You attacked Fang Qingyun and violated the sect rules. You even injured your fellow disciple. Kneel down and admit your guilt. The other disciples of the academy remained silent. Everyone knew that Su Zimo was indeed the one who made the first move and there was no way to refute that. If they were punished according to the sect rules, Su Zimo would definitely not be able to keep his cultivation. Princess Qi Hong and Lu Ping were anxious but they could not think of any solution. Only Su Zimo looked calm. Seeing the appearance of the Patriarch of Law Enforcement, he had no intention of letting Fang Qingyun go. He said lightly, Elder Chen, you've come at the right time. I'm not harming my fellow disciples, but punishing evil for the academy. Nonsense. Mingzhi shouted, everyone is watching, there are countless fellow disciples as witnesses, and Elder Chen is also here. He can see clearly and see through everything. How can you confuse right and wrong and reverse black and white? Su Zimo, not only did you launch a sneak attack on Senior Brother Fang, you even slandered Senior Brother Fang as a villain. Gui Yuan also sneered and said, you're really vicious. You even want to kill people in the heart. Indeed, it was Senior Brother Su who made the first move. But it all started because Senior Apprentice Brother Fang was looking for trouble with that child. Senior Apprentice Brother Su was so angry that he couldn't control himself. So what? It was Senior Brother Su who ignored the sect rules and attacked Senior Brother Fang first. Many cultivators in the crowd spoke one after another. After listening for a while, Elder Chen understood and said slowly with a darkened expression, Su Zimo, if you don't let him go, don't blame me for taking you down. The Patriarch of Law Enforcement of the inner sect was at true self-realm. There was naturally no way Su Zimo could defend against a perfected immortal. If not for the fact that Elder Chen knew that Su Zimo was an in-name disciple of the Patriarch and had some reservations, he would have made a move long ago. Elder Chen, Junior Brother Su is right. Right then, Yang Ruoxu walked over and said, it's not wrong to say that Fang Qingyun is a villain. Junior Brother Su's attack this time round is not against the sect rules. A legacy disciple stepping in? Elder Chen frowned. This matter seemed to be beyond his capabilities. However, he still asked in a deep voice, Yang Ruoxu, what do you mean by that? Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice, around 2,000 years ago, I was severely injured and almost died when I was traveling outside. I'm sure everyone knows about that. The many academy disciples nodded. At that time, they all thought that Yang Ruoxu would not be able to survive this calamity. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo found the worryless fruit from somewhere, and Yang Ruoxu benefited from this disaster and broke through to true self-realm, reaching the top in one step and joining the academy. Hearing this, there was already some panic in Fang Qingyun's single eye. Yang Ruoxu said, at that time, I was besieged by Pang Yi of the Pang clan, Commandery Prince Yuanzhua, the Great Jin Heavenly Executioner, Flying Immortal Sex Ge Yuan Heavenly Immortal, Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom Xie Tianhong, and other experts from 4 forces. And the person who leaked my whereabouts and plotted all this behind the scenes was Fang Qingyun. These words were like 1,000 ripples that stirred up a commotion in the crowd and set off a huge commotion. If what Yang Ruoxu said was true, saying that Fang Qingyun was a villain would be an understatement. This was colluding with outside forces to kill a fellow disciple. The nature of this was several times worse than a private fight in the academy. It was a capital offense. Right then, a cold laugh came from not far away. The Moonlight Sword Immortal and Shaoli had also arrived. 2 more legacy disciples had appeared. Elder Chen felt a headache coming on. He was an inner sect law enforcement elder and could only supervise inner sect disciples. He could not control legacy disciples at all, nor did he have the ability to do so. Shaoli raised his voice. Junior Brother Yang, you have nothing to say and have no evidence. Isn't it too childish to frame a fellow disciple like this? According to what you said, for forces besieged you at that time and you were severely injured. If Fang Qingyun was behind this, how could he have let you return alive? Yang Ruoxu said, because Fang Qingyun's true objective is to deal with junior apprentice Brother Su. Junior Brother Su is the Patriarch's in-name disciple. They would only dare to attack Junior Brother Su if he left the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm. Most of the Academy disciples were shocked and discussed animatedly. They could not accept such explosive news in a short time. Among the crowd, only Yan Bingying had her head lowered. She was not surprised by these words. Back then, when Fang Qingyun revealed his plan, he was rather proud. She and Tang Peng were both present. However, Tang Peng had already died long ago. Not even his corpse was left. Clap, clap, clap. The Moonlight Sword Immortal clapped her hands and said, Junior Brother Yang, this story is pretty good. You must have spent a lot of effort. Yang Ruoxu looked at the Moonlight Sword Immortal with a fearless expression and said in a low voice, I won't lie about this kind of thing. In fact, if these words were said by someone else, the Academy disciples would have some doubts. However, if it was said by Yang Ruoxu, most of the Academy disciples believed it. Everyone knew that Yang Ruoxu cultivated the Overwhelming Righteousness Sutra and was full of righteousness. If there was any falsehood in this matter, his cultivation would be crippled because of it. Actually. At that moment, a weak voice came from the square. Senior Brother Yang is telling the truth. Although this voice was weak, it attracted countless gazes. The person who spoke was Yan Bingying. Her face was pale, and she was under immense pressure to say these words. No one knew how much courage she had to muster. Many cultivators knew that Yan Bingying had once followed Fang Qingyun. The weight of her words was extremely heavy. If Fang Qingyun really did these things, then Su Zimo not only did not violate the sect's rules by attacking him, but it could also be considered as eradicating a disaster for the Academy and making a great contribution. Chapter 2480. Junior Sister Yan. Fang Qingyun heard Yan Bingying's voice and his single eye was filled with gloom. He gritted his teeth and said, What did you say just now? Yan Bingying's lips quivered as she said softly, Senior Brother Fang, now that things have come to this, bitch, shut up. Fang Qingyun seemed to have suffered an immense blow and cursed like he had gone mad. Su Zimo looked at Elder Chen and the surrounding Academy disciples and said indifferently, Since everyone wants evidence, I'll give it to you right now. The moment he said that, Su Zimo exerted strength in his palm and directly detained Fang Qingyun's essence spirit. Before everyone could react, Su Zimo directly used the soul-searching technique on Fang Qingyun. At the same time, he released a spell and revealed Fang Qingyun's memory fragments for everyone present to see. Su Zimo. When Elder Chen saw this scene, his heart skipped a beat and he wanted to stop it, but it was already too late. Even if he made a move now and stopped Su Zimo, Fang Qingyun's essence spirit had already suffered irreversible damage. The other cultivators were also aghast. They did not expect that Su Zimo would be so decisive and vicious, actually using the soul-searching technique on Fang Qingyun. This action was equivalent to executing Fang Qingyun in front of everyone. Elder Chen's expression was terrible as he said slowly, Su Zimo, do you know what kind of price you have to pay if you don't find any evidence in Fang Qingyun's memories? Look, it's appeared. Everyone pointed at the image that appeared in midair and exclaimed. Looks like it was indeed Senior Brother Fang who plotted behind the scenes, colluding with outsiders to kill his fellow disciples. There's also Tang Peng inside. However, I heard that 2,000 years ago, Tang Peng died outside inexplicably without a corpse. Still calling him Senior Brother Fang? Fang Qingyun is a sinner and traitor of our academy. Everyone has the right to kill him. No wonder he wanted to find trouble with Senior Brother Su. So, it's because Senior Brother Su knows his secret. That's why this dog bastard wants to silence him. Fortunately, Senior Brother Su was decisive and killed him first. Otherwise, who knows how much trouble he would have brought to the academy. Who knows how many innocent fellow disciples would have been killed by him. Seeing Fang Qingyun's memories, the many disciples of the academy came to a realization. Mingzhi, Guiyuan, and the rest of Fang Qingyun's followers were also somewhat flustered at this time. Mingzhi laughed dryly and said, We also didn't expect that senior apprentice brother Fang. No, Fang Qingyun is actually this kind of person. Bang! Guiyuan spat in Fang Qingyun's direction and scolded, I was really blind to have followed you for so long. Actually, I've long noticed that something was wrong with Fang Qingyun. I've been following by Fang Qingyun's side and have always endured humiliation in order to gather some evidence of his crimes. I didn't expect that Senior Brother Su would drag him out today. Just now, some of the disciples of the academy who had almost attacked Su Zimo changed their attitude faster than flipping a book. They quickly drew a clear line with Fang Qingyun and showed their disgraceful behavior. The other disciples of the academy looked at Su Zimo with complicated expressions and lamented. Earlier on, they all thought that Su Zimo was just an irrational brute who ignored the sect rules and attacked Fang Qingyun when he saw his Dao child being humiliated. It was only now that they realized that from the moment Su Zimo attacked, he was already prepared and had a backup plan, calculating everything. Fang Qingyun's attack this time must have been premeditated for a long time. However, he did not expect that Su Zimo's counterattack would be so powerful, crushing him effortlessly and causing his reputation to be ruined. His life was in danger and he was on the verge of death. In less than 2 hours, Fang Qingyun fell from the number 1 position of the academy's inner sect and was smashed to pieces. After today, the academy's inner sect would completely change. The soul search was already over. Fang Qingyun's essence spirit was dim and lifeless. His life aura was weak and he did not have long to live. In the last period of time when he was still conscious, he saw his former followers cursing and pointing at him. He also saw the cold face of the Moonlight Sword Immortal not far away. All of that crushed him completely. Cracks appeared on Fang Qingyun's essence spirit. Right in front of everyone, his soul dissipated and his Dao dissipated. The huge square was completely silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Many academy disciples sighed in their hearts. Who would have thought that a conflict between a Dao child and a servant would cause the number 1 of the academy's inner sect, Fang Qingyun, to end up in such a state? Elder Chen calmed himself down and coughed gently to attract everyone's attention before saying, All right, this matter is over. Disciples, you may disperse. Wait! Right then, the Moonlight Sword Immortal suddenly spoke. Many academy disciples could not help but feel their hearts skip a beat when they realized that the Moonlight Sword Immortal had an unfriendly expression. Was there going to be more trouble over this matter? That was not impossible. It was no secret that Fang Qingyun followed the Moonlight Sword Immortal. The Moonlight Sword Immortal said coldly, Fang Qingyun colluded with outsiders to harm his fellow sect members. Naturally, he should be killed to clean up the sect. At this point, the Moonlight Sword Immortal paused for a moment and changed the topic. However, Fang Qingyun is a sinner of the academy. It doesn't mean that others can get away with it and escape the academy's punishment. Senior Brother Moonlight's words have a deeper meaning. Who is he talking about? It must be Senior Brother Yang Ruoxu. The two of them have been at odds for many years because of Senior Sister Mo Qing. Don't you know? Some academy disciples started whispering among themselves. Elder Chen wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He really could not meddle in the conflicts between true inheritors. Although they were both perfected immortals, he was already in his twilight years and any core disciple's combat strength was above his. Yang Ruoxu looked at the Moonlight Sword Immortal with a calm expression. Senior Brother Moonlight, let's not beat around the bush. Who do you mean by others? Junior Brother Yang, don't be nervous. The Moonlight Sword Immortal smiled faintly. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Su Zimo. Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly. He originally thought that the Moonlight Sword Immortal was going to make things difficult for him. However, he was magnanimous and had never done anything against his conscience. Naturally, he was not afraid of anything. However, he did not expect the Moonlight Sword Immortal to turn her sword and point it at Su Zimo. The Academy disciples were also confused, not knowing what the Moonlight Sword Immortal meant. Su Zimo raised his head slightly and looked at the Moonlight Sword Immortal. Moonlight, there's no need to beat around the bush. What do you mean by getting away with it? Just say it. Su Zimo, you're still pretending even now. Xiao Li shouted, you've already betrayed Qiankuan Academy and joined the demon territory. As soon as he said that, there was an uproar. This crime was extremely serious and was no less serious than what Fang Qingyun had done. Betraying one's sect and joining the demon territory, no matter which sect or kingdom in the Nine Heavens immortal realm it was, one would definitely be punished and killed on the spot. Chapter 2481. Yang Ruoxu frowned and said in a low voice, Senior Brother Xiao, betraying your sect and joining the demon region is a serious crime. You can't say such things. Since I dare to say it, I naturally have absolute confidence. Xiao Li sneered and stared at Su Zimo. He shouted, Su Zimo, tell us, where did the child beside you come from? What are you trying to say? Su Zimo asked expressionlessly. Seeing Su Zimo's reaction, Xiao Li was relieved and said, it doesn't matter if you don't say it. I'll tell everyone. The child beside you is the child beside Araki Takashi, the patriarch of the Heaven Baron sect of the demon region. Su Zimo did not move. At that time, Langfeng City was in chaos. Many perfected immortals were running for their lives under the pursuit of Wu Dao's true body. No one could have seen him return with Momo. Xiao Li's words did not cause much of a reaction in the crowd. Most of the Academy disciples were at a loss. How did this child called Momo have anything to do with Araki Takashi of the demon region? Seeing that no one had any reaction, Xiao Li hurriedly explained, back then, during the battle of Langfeng City in the Jade Heaven Immortal region, it was because the child beside Araki Takashi was captured. At that time, Su Zimo also happened to be in Langfeng City. Before that, Su Zimo had never had a servant by his side. But after he returned, there was an additional child by his side. So, this Momo is the child beside Araki Takashi of the demon region. Many Academy disciples rolled their eyes and did not think much of it. Everyone thought that Xiao Li was so confident because he had some strong evidence. They did not expect that he would forcefully combine these two matters and come up with a conclusion full of loopholes and nonsense. An Academy disciple whispered, the reason why Desolate Marshal of the Fiend region started a massacre in Langfeng City was to save his Dao child. In the end, he left in a carefree manner after causing a huge ruckus and left his Dao child there? Maybe Araki Takashi's memory is not good and he forgot to save his child. Senior brother Su just happened to take advantage of the loophole. Another person said. Exclamation point. The cultivators beside him couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. One of the Academy disciples pursed his lips and said, if this Momo is really Araki Takashi's child, why did Araki Takashi not do anything after so many years? Another person also said, with Araki Takashi's character, if he knew about this, wouldn't he be like a mad dog and kill his way to our divine firmament celestial realm? Most importantly, if she is Araki Takashi's child, why would this Momo be willing to follow Senior Brother Su? Could it be that she was influenced by Senior Brother Su? Exclamation point. Someone could not help but laugh out loud. The cultivators beside them also tried their best to hold back their laughter until their faces turned red. In their eyes, Xiao Li's speculation was simply a joke. Su Zimo smiled but did not say anything. Seeing the reaction of the Academy disciples, Xiao Li was a little flustered and embarrassed. He also knew that this matter was full of loopholes. But since he had already decided to target Su Zimo, he could only bite the bullet and continue. Everyone, I'm not done yet. After such a tragic battle in Langfeng City, it is very strange that Su Zimo could come back alive. In fact, most of the people who died in Langfeng City were perfected immortals. There were almost no casualties among the innocent people. Shaoli did not wait for everyone to react and hurriedly continued. There is only one possibility. Su Zimo has already submitted to Araki Takashi and become a chess piece that Araki Takashi buried in our academy. So, Su Zimo can bring Araki Takashi's child back. This time, before the academy disciples could speak, Elder Chen could not bear to listen anymore. Elder Chen coughed lightly and said, "Shaoli, do you have any evidence? If not, I think everyone should." In Elder Chen's opinion, Shaoli's speculation was simply too far-fetched. Shaoli was stumped by Elder Chen's question and was helpless. He subconsciously looked at the Moonlight Sword Immortal beside him. Isn't it easy to get evidence? The Moonlight Sword Immortal's lips curled slightly. Her gaze swept past Momo, and a trace of cruelty appeared in the depths of her eyes. Without warning, she moved. Su Zimo's expression changed. The Moonlight Sword Immortal's attack this time was not targeted at him, so his spirit perception did not react at all. Too fast. The Moonlight Sword Immortal's target was Momo. For a top-tier perfected immortal like the Moonlight Sword Immortal to attack a Heaven Immortal, Su Zimo could not react at all without the help of his spirit perception. He hurriedly pulled Momo, wanting to dodge to the side. Unfortunately, he was still one step too late. Buzz. The Moonlight Sword Immortal came to Momo's side and reached out to grab Momo. However, at this moment, something strange happened. The token at Momo's waist suddenly released a strange brilliance, protecting Momo. The Moonlight Sword Immortal felt a piercing pain in her palm. She could not touch Momo. With a slight delay, Su Zimo took the opportunity to pull Momo back, seeking death. At the same time, Yang Ruoxu also descended, holding the Howren sword. His righteous aura was awe-inspiring, and his gaze was like a sword, blocking the Moonlight Sword Immortal in front of him. The Moonlight Sword Immortal frowned slightly. She actually failed? The light emitted by this Tao child just now could actually block the power of a perfected immortal. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, cracks appeared on the token at Momo's waist, and the light dimmed. Although this token blocked the Moonlight Sword Immortal's attack, it could not withstand the Moonlight Sword Immortal's power and was thus destroyed. "Moonlight, what are you doing?" Yang Ruoxu questioned loudly. "Nothing." The Moonlight Sword Immortal's expression was indifferent. She waved her hand and said casually, "Since everyone wants evidence, I'm just going to imitate Su Zimo and search this Tao child's soul." "You want to search an innocent person's soul based on your wild guess?" Yang Ruoxu glared angrily. Scram. The Moonlight Sword Immortal's expression turned cold. "As the head of the true disciples, how dare you stop me from searching a Tao child's soul?" Yang Ruoxu did not back down. He asked, "If there's no evidence after the soul search, what will you do?" "If there's no evidence, then there's no evidence." "Naturally, I guessed wrong." The Moonlight Sword Immortal sneered. "What? Do you want me to pay with my life for a lowly Tao child? Not to mention that I'm just searching his soul. Even if I kill him directly, the enforcement elder won't say anything." As the head of the true disciples, the Moonlight Sword Immortal's power and status far exceeded others. Indeed, no one would care if she punished a servant Tao child. In the blink of an eye, the situation had developed to this stage. The two great true disciples were confronting each other with swords drawn. "Tao, where are you?" At this moment, a voice called out from afar. The voice was pleasant and gentle, with a hint of anxiety and worry. Everyone looked toward the voice. In the distance, a plain-clothed woman was walking through the air. Many cultivators only took a glance from afar and felt their eyes light up. They could not take their eyes off her and were stunned. Chapter 2482. This woman was very unfamiliar. She was dressed in plain clothes, but she seemed to have the spirit of heaven and earth. She exuded an elegant and noble aura. A gentle breeze blew past, and the woman's clothes fluttered, revealing her slender and graceful figure. It made one's heart race. There were many female cultivators in the academy, but compared to this plain-clothed woman, they were instantly at a disadvantage. Even Yen Bingying, who was known as the #1 beauty in the inner sect, paled in comparison to this woman. There's such a woman in the divine firmament immortal realm? I'm afraid only senior sister Mo Qing from the place of true inheritance can be compared to her. Many academy disciples sighed with emotion when they saw this plain-clothed woman. Someone sighed. It said that the four fairies are peerless beauties, but other than senior sister Mo Qing, we've never seen the other three. But I think those three fairies have to be at least comparable to this fellow Taoist to be worthy of their reputations. While everyone was sighing, this woman seemed to have noticed the crowd and walked over. Although there were many academy disciples present, there were not many who could recognize this woman. The Moonlight Sword Immortal was one of them. Book Immortal Yunju? The Moonlight Sword Immortal frowned slightly and murmured, "What is she doing here?" "Senior brother Moonlight, what did you just say?" Xiao Li's heart trembled, and he unconsciously raised his voice. He hurriedly asked, "Book Immortal? One of the four fairies, the Book Immortal?" Not many people had heard what the Moonlight Sword Immortal had said, but everyone in the academy had heard Xiao Li's shout clearly. The crowd instantly exploded, setting off a huge wave of noise. This plain-clothed woman was one of the four fairies, the Book Immortal. What kind of people were the four fairies? Many academy disciples, including the painting immortal Mo Qing, had never seen her before, let alone the other three fairies. They did not expect to see another one of the four fairies today, the Book Immortal Yunju. The Moonlight Sword Immortal ignored Xiao Li. Instead, she revealed a smile and walked towards Yunju. She cupped her hands and said, "So it is Fairy Yunju who has graced us with her presence. Why didn't you inform me in advance so that I could welcome her personally?" Out of all the academy disciples present, the only one who could speak to Book Immortal Yunju was probably the Moonlight Sword Immortal. For example, although Yang Ruoxu and Xiao Li were also true immortals, their fame was too small, and their combat strength could not be ranked among the true immortals. Moreover, the two of them had never met Book Fairy Yunju before, so they did not know each other at all. Yunju did not exchange pleasantries with the Moonlight Sword Immortal. She seemed a little anxious and went straight to the point. "Taoist Moonlight, have you seen Tao Tao?" "Tao?" The corners of the Moonlight Sword Immortal's eyes twitched as she listened. She had a nagging feeling that something was off. However, he could not react in time. He said in a low voice, "Fairy Yunju, don't be anxious. Who is this Tao Tao you're talking about? What does she look like?" Yunju said, "He's my Taoist child, about 8 or 9 years old. His name is Momo." The smile on the Moonlight Sword Immortal's face froze. Her mind buzzed and she became confused. Yunju's Taoist child, Tao Tao, was Momo? This is a coincidence, right? The crowd in the square gradually quietened down. Countless gazes turned and landed on the fair-skinned child beside Su Zimo. "Princess, I'm here," Momo called out timidly. Although her voice was weak, Yunju heard it clearly. She hurriedly turned around and saw that Momo was safe and sound. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief and smile. The Moonlight Sword Immortal looked embarrassed. She coughed softly and said, "Fairy Yun, I think there might be some misunderstanding here." When Yunju saw Momo, she was overjoyed. As if she did not hear what the Moonlight Sword Immortal said, she moved and appeared beside Momo. "Who bullied you?" Yunju asked with a frown. Her gaze landed on Momo's waist token that was already broken. Her face darkened and she said coldly, "Who broke the waist token I gave you?" Everyone present could feel the anger in Book Immortal Yunju's heart. Moreover, everyone could see that this child called Momo was obviously someone by Book Immortal Yunju's side. She had nothing to do with the Rocky Takashi of the demon domain at all. Many disciples of the academy snickered secretly and revealed gloating expressions. Everyone looked at the Moonlight Sword Immortal with a trace of pity in their eyes. They were waiting to see how he would deal with this. Hearing Yunju's question, Momo pouted. She blinked her big, watery eyes and stretched out her small hand to point at the Moonlight Sword Immortal. "It's him." Yunju's eyes narrowed. I didn't," the Moonlight Sword Immortal hurriedly explained. "Fairy Yunju, I really don't know. He's your child. It's all a misunderstanding." Yunju took the token from Momo's waist and injected her inner core. Although the token was broken, the word "the" faintly appeared on it. Misunderstanding? Look carefully, this is my personal waist token. Yunju said coldly, if Momo isn't my child, whose child is he? Prince. Momo had an aggrieved expression. She shook Yunju's arm gently and said with tears in her eyes, that person just now said that I'm Araki Takashi's child. He even said that I'm from the demon domain and called me lowly. Momo, don't cry. Be good. Yunju hurriedly squatted down and cupped Momo's tender cheeks with both hands, comforting her gently. Momo was not tainted by karma or blood. Her aura was pure and anyone who saw her would unconsciously have a good impression of her. Furthermore, she looked obedient and innocent. Her aggrieved expression instantly aroused the sympathy of many cultivators. Everyone did not think much of the Moonlight Sword Immortal's accusation of Momo. After Yunju's appearance, everyone's judgment was confirmed. When they saw Momo's pitiful appearance, everyone felt their hearts ache for her. Even Elder Chin shook his head gently and sighed with a pained expression. Sigh, such a good child is being bullied to this extent. She must have suffered a great grievance. Princess Chi Hong and Lu Ping stood at the side, their eyes wide open as they stared in bewilderment. Although the two of them did not know Momo's true background, they knew that Momo was not Yunju's child. But now, the two of them almost believed the act of the adult and the child. She has turned evil, she has turned evil. Lu Ping looked at Momo as though he was meeting her for the first time and muttered softly. Su Zimo was also dumbfounded. When he saw Yunju appear, he instantly understood her intentions. Therefore, he was relieved and did not say anything, allowing Yunju to handle the matter. However, he did not expect that Yunju and Momo would do such a thing. Yunju had a carefree nature and liked to play occasionally. Momo was such an obedient child, but she actually joined in the act and cooperated quite well. Yunju stood up and looked at the Moonlight Sword Immortal with a cold gaze. Moonlight, tell me, when did my child become Araki Takashi's subordinate and when did she join the demon territory? The Moonlight Sword Immortal was stumped by the question and looked embarrassed. Anxious, she broke out in a sweat. End of chapter. Chapter 2483. Even in her wildest dreams, the Moonlight Sword Immortal would never have imagined that such a huge misunderstanding would occur in such a foolproof situation. If the other party was anyone else, he would not have bothered to explain. However, this was one of the four fairies, the Book Immortal, and the princess of the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom. More importantly, he was indeed in the wrong. If news of this got out, his reputation would be tarnished. Seeing the Moonlight Sword Immortal's ugly expression, Shaoli hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. It's mainly because I saw this Momo by Su Zimo's side. That's why there was such a misunderstanding. Fairy Yunju, may I ask why your child is in our Chenkuan Academy? Shaoli was still a little confused. I heard that Su Zimo of your academy obtained a mutated immortal peach tree, so I asked Taotout to come to his side to cultivate with the help of this mutated immortal sapling. Is there a problem? Yunju's expression was indifferent. She had already prepared an excuse. No problem. Shaoli smiled awkwardly. Yunju surveyed her surroundings and sneered, I don't understand. The Tao child by my side is merely a low-level heavenly immortal who has never made enemies with anyone. Why would Heaven and Earth Academy mobilize so many people and even invite a perfected immortal to take action? The Moonlight Sword Immortal's heart sank. If news of this got out that the Chenkuan Academy bullied the child of the Book Immortal, Yunju, it would attract countless criticisms. The Moonlight Sword Immortal said in a low voice, this has nothing to do with the Academy. Oh? Yunju did not wait for the Moonlight Sword Immortal to finish and interrupted. So, this was your idea? The Moonlight Sword Immortal's expression was ugly. After a moment of silence, he suddenly turned around and raised his palm. With a loud smack, he gave Shaoli a huge slap. Shaoli, how many times have I told you that we must trust each other in the same sect? The Moonlight Sword Immortal shouted, don't talk nonsense without evidence. This slap came without any warning. Shaoli was completely unprepared and was hit squarely on the face. The Moonlight Sword Immortal stared at Shaoli and said coldly, you'll have to deal with the mistake you made and the joke you made. Xiao Li's heart was burning with rage, and his lungs were about to explode. This matter had been the Moonlight Sword Immortal's idea from the beginning to the end. Now, she was pushing the blame onto him and making him the scapegoat. Furthermore, it was clearly the Moonlight Sword Immortal who attacked that Taoist child. What did it have to do with him? However, when Xiao Li saw the Moonlight Sword Immortal's cold and warning gaze, he felt a chill in his heart and his anger was quickly extinguished. Xiao Li lowered his head and came before Yunzhu. He bowed and said, "Fellow Taoist Yunzhu, I'm sorry. It was my fault this time. Please forgive me." Yunzhu sneered. She knew when to stop and did not pursue the matter. After all, this was the Heaven and Earth Academy. She couldn't appear too domineering and had to know her limits. If he didn't back down and was overbearing, it might backfire instead. At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared in midair. An old man appeared. His face was pale and his gaze was gloomy. His entire body was emitting an aura that made people tremble in fear. Tearing through the void, this was a celestial king-level expert. The second elder of the academy was in charge of law enforcement and was the most ruthless. "Greetings, second elder." When the Moonlight Sword Immortal and many other academy disciples saw him, they bowed and greeted him. Yunzhu's expression turned serious. She faced the second elder of the academy and cupped her fists. "Greetings, senior." The second elder of the academy nodded slightly. His gaze shifted and landed on Xiao Li, the Moonlight Sword Immortal, and the rest. He said coldly, "The Patriarch already knows about today's matter. He instructed me to say a few words. First, Fang Qingyun colluded with outsiders and harmed his fellow disciples. Even death can't wipe out his crimes. Second, Xiao Li slandered his fellow disciples. Within 10,000 years, he is not allowed to receive any cultivation resources from the academy. He is not allowed to browse the academy's cultivation techniques and secret techniques. He is not allowed to take half a step out of the academy." Xiao Li didn't dare to have any doubts. He just lowered his head and obeyed. Third, Moonlight Sword Immortal, go into seclusion and reflect. She is not allowed to come out before the Divine Firmament Immortal meeting. Upon hearing this, many academy disciples sighed. Their gazes towards the Moonlight Sword Immortal became somewhat complicated. The Patriarch of the academy's words could be considered to have determined today's matter. Not only was Fang Qingyun dead, but his reputation was also ruined. No one was surprised that the academy dealt with Xiao Li. However, no one expected that the Moonlight Sword Immortal, as the true disciple of the Patriarch of the academy and the #1 perfected immortal of the academy, would also be punished. Although it wasn't serious, it disgraced the Moonlight Sword Immortal in front of everyone. The Moonlight Sword Immortal glanced at Su Zimo expressionlessly. Without a word, she turned and left. There were too many emotions contained in his gaze. There was resentment, threats, warnings, and murderous intent. Su Zimo knew clearly that the Moonlight Sword Immortal would definitely not let this matter rest after suffering such a huge setback. If she found an opportunity, the Moonlight Sword Immortal would definitely make things difficult for him again. However, Su Zimo was fearless. His current strength was indeed inferior to the Moonlight Sword Immortal. However, as long as he was given time and space to grow, with his cultivation speed, he would soon surpass the Moonlight Sword Immortal. Moreover, even if the Moonlight Sword Immortal didn't find him, he would seek revenge on her. Back then on the Dragon Abyss planet, he almost died in the hands of the Moonlight Sword Immortal. He had never forgotten this matter. The second elder of the academy surveyed the surroundings and looked at the surrounding academy disciples. He said in a low voice, "Today's matter, especially regarding Fang Qingyun, no one is allowed to spread it. Dirty linen should not be aired in public." "That's how it should be," Elder Chen hurriedly echoed. Fang Qingyun was originally the #1 in the academy's inner sect and was predicted to be #10 on the heaven roll. In the end, he colluded with outsiders and harmed his fellow disciples. This could be considered the biggest scandal of the academy in recent years. If this matter were to spread, it would indeed have a significant impact on the academy's reputation. Yunzhu's lips curled slightly. She disapproved of the second elder of the Academy's thoughts. With so many witnesses, it was impossible to hide this matter. As time passed, all sorts of rumors would naturally spread. The second elder of the Academy looked at Su Zimo, and his expression softened slightly. Su Zimo, settle the matters here and then head to the Universal Palace. The Patriarch wants to see you. The Patriarch wants to see me? Su Zimo was a little surprised and asked, Second elder, may I ask why the Patriarch wants to see me? I'm not sure. You can ask at the Universal Palace yourself. The second elder of the Academy said and turned to leave. I'm leaving too. Yunju glanced at Su Zimo and held Momo's hand as she said in a seemingly casual manner. Take care, Princess Yunju. I'll send you off. Su Zimo stepped forward and sped off into the distance with Yunju and Momo. Before long, they disappeared from everyone's sight. An Academy disciple looked at Su Zimo's back view and lamented, Fang Qingyun prides himself on being unparalleled in scheming and strategizing. But compared to senior brother Su's methods, he's still a far cry. That's right. Senior brother Su is the one who can do whatever he wants with a flip of his hand. He killed the number 1 inner sect disciple and disgraced the Moonlight Sword Immortal. Yet, he was able to escape unscathed. Such methods are truly admirable. I wonder what his relationship is with the book Immortal, Yunju. As Su Zimo and the others left, the crowd dispersed as well. However, the discussion of today's matter would continue for a long time in the Academy. In the Academy's secret pavilion, Elder Xian's gaze seemed to be able to penetrate countless spaces and witness the entire process. A complicated and indescribable emotion appeared in his eyes. After a long silence, he closed his eyes again. Chapter 2484. Su Zimo, Yunju, and Momo flew above the Academy. After a while, seeing that there was no one around, they gradually slowed down. Su Zimo said, Yunju, thank you. This time, Yunju's appearance not only helped him resolve a crisis, but also saved Momo's life twice with her waist token. It's nothing. Yunju shook her head slightly and said with a smile, however, in order to make it more realistic, I have to let Momo stay at my place for a few days. After that, I'll let her come to you. Su Zimo nodded. After a short pause, Su Zimo was curious and could not help but ask, how did you know that someone would use Momo's identity to make a fuss and give her a waist token in advance? Yes, Princess, you're so smart. Momo also praised from the bottom of her heart. How can I be so smart? I'm not the Patriarch of the Academy. Yunju smiled and looked deeply at Su Zimo. She said with a smile, when I gave Momo the waist token, it was a spur-of-the-moment idea. But mainly, I wanted to repay you for saving my life. At the same time, I wanted to rope in the legendary demon Araki Takashi. But later, I didn't expect that the waist token would really come in handy. Su Zimo smiled and said, no matter what, I'm lucky to have your help this time. The three chatted along the way. Soon, they arrived near the teleportation formation of the Academy. Yunju said, you can go back. The Patriarch of the Academy must have summoned you for something. You don't have to see me off. Su Zimo cupped his hands and said goodbye. Then, he rushed toward the palace of Qiankuan, the place of the true transmission of the Academy. Yunju held Momo's little hand and stepped into the teleportation formation. They returned directly to the Zishuan Celestial Kingdom and went all the way back to the library. A maid at the door greeted them and said, Princess, you're back. Young Royal Prince Yunting is looking for you everywhere. It seems that something big has happened. He's upstairs right now. What could have happened to him? There's no need to make a fuss. Yunju knew her younger brother too well. With a calm expression, she walked up the stairs and said casually, most likely he made a breakthrough and became a 9th stage heavenly immortal. He's here to show off to me. In the blink of an eye, Yunju led Momo to the top floor of the library. When Yunting saw Yunju's figure, he jumped up from the ground and went up to Yunju. He patted his chest and said proudly, Sister, I'm only 1,000 years away from the divine firmament immortal gathering, and I'm already a stage 9 heaven immortal. Momo covered her mouth and snickered. Yun Ting recognized Tao Yao's identity and pulled a long face, saying with a frown, "Why is it you again? Why aren't you staying by Su Zimo's side? Why are you always running to my sister?" "I brought him here. It's none of your business." With that, Yunju pushed Yun Ting away and led Momo back to her study. Yun Ting hurried after them, still keeping a straight face. He glared at Momo and asked fiercely, "What were you laughing at? Are you mocking me? Is your master's cultivation speed faster than mine?" "Not as fast as you." Momo shook her head, unafraid. "Young master is only a stage 6 heavenly immortal. Too weak." Yun Ting pursed his lips and snorted disdainfully. Yunju glanced at Yun Ting and reminded him, "Little brother, don't underestimate him. He's only a stage 6 heavenly immortal, but he's already on the predicted leaderboard and is ranked 17th. So what? Yun Ting also saw the predicted leaderboard update and was not surprised. "I'm already a stage 9 heavenly immortal. When the predicted leaderboard refreshes again, I'll replace Qin Gu and take first place." Yunju said, "There's still 1,000 years. Anything can happen. Besides, even if you fight Su Zimo now, it's hard to say who will win." "Sister." Yun Ting couldn't help grumbling. "Why are you always attacking me and boosting Su Zimo's prestige? Those who don't know better would think that you're his sister." Yunju sneered. "That's attacking you? I haven't even said the real attacking words yet." If Yun Ting knew that the greatest opponent he'd ever seen was only one of Qin Gu's true bodies, he would probably be traumatized for the rest of his life. Yunju seemed to have thought of something and suddenly asked, "By the way, what's the reaction from the Great Jin Immortal Empire after Juele City was destroyed and Yuanzhua was killed?" "Nothing much." Yun Ting shrugged. Yunju frowned, deep in thought. "Princess, is there something wrong?" Momo asked softly when she saw Yunju's strange expression. Yunju pondered. "Your young master killed the Duke of Great Jin and hundreds of heavenly immortals. He even burned an entire city to the ground. That's practically a declaration of war. Even if the other party is wary of Qianquan Academy's power, someone should stand up and speak up. They shouldn't be so calm. This is a little abnormal." Yun Ting said casually, "Yuanzhua has long lost his power. So what if he's dead? I don't think anyone will care." Yunju said, "No matter how weak Yuanzhua is, he still has the royal bloodline of Great Jin flowing in his body. How can an outsider kill him so casually?" Yun Ting chuckled. "Perhaps Great Jin is planning an even greater counterattack, the kind that will kill in one blow. It's like the calm before the storm." "Is that so?" Yunju fell into deep thought. After a while, Yunju raised her head and saw that Yun Ting was still there. She waved her hand and said, "Go back and cultivate. There's still 1,000 years left. Don't slack off." Yun Ting was speechless. After he cultivated to a rank 9 heavenly immortal, the first thing he did was run to Yunju, hoping to get some encouragement. However, he ended up being snubbed. He came in high spirits but returned in disappointment. "She's my sister. Why is she always speaking up for outsiders?" Yun Ting left the library and mumbled. Before long, his heart skipped a beat as he thought of a possibility and his eyes widened. Could it be impossible, right? Yun Ting clenched his fists subconsciously with a conflicted expression. Heaven and Earth Academy. Following the map of the academy, Su Zimo finally arrived at the most mysterious place in the academy, the Heaven and Earth Palace. The Heaven and Earth Palace was located in the depths of the academy. There was a saying in the academy that without the Patriarch's permission, no one would be able to see the Heaven and Earth Palace even if they came here. Su Zimo looked at the palace not far away and narrowed his gaze. Compared to the other buildings in the academy, the palace was rather simple. However, the palace that was located in front of him seemed to form an indescribably mysterious aura with the world, the surrounding winds and the white clouds in the skies. The palace seemed to be located in a strange space. It seemed like an array formation or restriction, but it was definitely not one of those two. The white clouds in the skies suddenly descended, forming a cloud bridge that led to the entrance of the palace. "Zimo, come on in." The Patriarch's voice sounded gentle and benevolent. Su Zimo looked at the heaven and earth palace before him and took a deep breath of air before stepping onto the cloud bridge. Peak. Chapter 2485. In the palace of heaven and earth, celestial chi swirled and rose. A figure sat cross-legged in front, faintly discernible. As Su Zimo stepped into the palace of heaven and earth, the celestial chi in the palace gradually dissipated, revealing the tall and straight figure of the patriarch of the college. "Greetings, patriarch." Su Zimo came to a stop not far away and bowed. The supreme headmaster of the college opened his eyes. His eyes seemed to flash with the starry sky and the rolling world of mortals. His eyes emitted colorful light and he smiled. "What is it? As a registered disciple, you don't even want to call me master?" Su Zimo and the patriarch of the college looked at each other, and their hearts were touched by an invisible force. The patriarch of the college seemed to be scolding him, but there was no blame or dissatisfaction in his tone. Su Zimo also didn't feel any pressure. On the contrary, a trace of guilt rose in his heart. "Greetings, master." Lowering his head slightly, Su Zimo bowed once more and called out. The patriarch of the college said warmly, "It's okay. If you don't want to join my branch, when you enter the true first level, you can choose from the other elders and celestial kings. With your talent, none of the elders and celestial kings will refuse." After a pause, the patriarch of the college suddenly asked, "I didn't punish you for what happened today. Are you dissatisfied?" "I wouldn't dare," Su Zimo said honestly. The patriarch of the college shook his head and chuckled. "You wouldn't dare. You're still dissatisfied." Su Zimo didn't say anything, which was a tacit admission. The patriarch of the college said, "Yuehua is the first true immortal of the college, after all. In the future, he will represent the college in the true immortal ranking list at the continent of the 9 clouds. I have to save some face for him. But don't worry, when you enter the true first level and become a true disciple, I can make the decision to let you and Emo-chin become cultivation partners." Su Zimo was stunned with a look of shock. He didn't react for a moment. Why did the patriarch suddenly talk about him and senior sister Emo-chin? The patriarch of the college smiled and said, "For cultivators, having the chance to become cultivation partners is fate. It can't be forced. Yuehua has been pursuing Emo-chin for many years, but Emo-chin is clearly interested in you these years. I can see this." "Master, you may have misunderstood." Su wanted to explain. The headmaster of the academy smiled and said, "Don't worry. I will stand up for you in this matter." Su Zimo realized he couldn't explain this matter. Senior sister Emo-chin had been living in seclusion for many years, rarely showing her face, let alone interacting with others. But over the years, senior apprentice sister Emo-chin had often come to his cave residence. Naturally, it was easy to make the connection. True immortals, immortals' true ling, celestials, of. If one were to say that the two of them were just ordinary fellow disciples, perhaps no one would believe it. Su Zimo remained silent. He had already accepted senior sister Emo-chin's painting. She probably wouldn't come looking for him again. After a long time, the two of them didn't interact much. Everyone naturally understood. If he tried to explain now, it might make things worse. "Also, I heard about the battle in Thunder City." The patriarch of the academy said indifferently, "King Jin came looking for me. I just sent him away. This matter ends here." The patriarch of the academy said it casually, but Su Zimo was shocked. In fact, he had long expected that the great Jin celestial nation wouldn't let the matter rest after causing such a huge commotion in Thunder City. However, he did not expect that this matter would actually alarm Prince Jin to personally appear. The patriarch of the academy said it casually, but Su Zimo knew that if the patriarch of the academy didn't help him stop King Jin, he would most likely be a dead man. The patriarch of the academy didn't say much about what happened between the two of them after King Jin arrived. However, he could imagine that the patriarch of the academy must have paid a price. Perhaps the two of them fought, or perhaps the patriarch of the academy compromised to send King Jin away and end this matter. It was no wonder that the great Jin celestial kingdom was so quiet during this period of time. "Thank you, Master." Su Zimo bowed deeply to the Patriarch of the Academy. The Patriarch of the Academy didn't explain much, but he knew how dangerous and pressurizing it was. Get up. The Patriarch of the Academy looked gratified. Since I've taken you in, I naturally have to protect you. Fang Qingyun has already fallen in this heaven ranking competition. Qianquan Academy can only rely on you. Don't worry, Master. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, I'm determined to get the top of the heaven ranking. The top of the heaven ranking was secondary. The main reason was that he and Yun Ting would eventually meet in the heaven ranking competition. A battle between the two of them was inevitable. Su Zimo wanted Yun Ting's Human Slayer sword art, and Yun Ting wanted his Heaven Slayer and Earth Slayer sword art. If there were no surprises, the winner would be the top of the heaven ranking. Don't be careless. The Patriarch of the Academy shook his head slightly. As far as I know, Yun Ting has already cultivated to the 9th level of Heaven Immortal. There are 3 levels between the two of you, and your hell-suppressing cauldron was taken away by Araki Takashi. At this point, the Patriarch of the Academy paused for a moment. Su Zimo's expression didn't change. Although he didn't look up, he could feel the Patriarch of the Academy's gaze on him as if he was observing something. Yunju was right. She could deduce that the bronze square cauldron Qinglian's real body had once been the hell-suppressing cauldron. The Patriarch of the Academy could naturally guess it as well. However, the sect master of the Academy could not deduce the origin of the martial Dao body even though he could see through the mysteries of heaven. When they learned that the hell-suppressing cauldron had appeared in Araki Takashi's hands, almost everyone subconsciously thought that Araki Takashi had stolen it from him. This was the most logical explanation. Yunju could deduce the relationship between him and Araki Takashi mainly because he had revealed a flaw in the Hell of Avicii. However, the Patriarch of the Academy didn't know what had happened in the Hell of Avicii and couldn't deduce the origin of Wu Dao's real body. Naturally, his guess was wrong. The Patriarch of the Academy paused for a very short time and almost imperceptible. He continued, Your hell-suppressing cauldron was taken away by Araki Takashi. You can't defeat him without using your bloodline. Su Zimo was shocked. When the hell-suppressing cauldron and Araki Takashi were mentioned, he could still remain calm and collected. However, when he heard the words, without using your bloodline, from the Patriarch of the Academy, his mind couldn't help but fluctuate violently. The Patriarch of the Academy was obviously hinting at something. Su Zimo also knew that such a fluctuation in his mind couldn't be hidden from the Patriarch of the Academy. He took a deep breath and looked up. The Patriarch of the Academy looked at Su Zimo, who was on guard, and smiled. Don't be nervous. I've already sensed your Qinglian bloodline. Chapter 2486. At that moment, countless thoughts flashed through Su Zimo's mind as though a tsunami was raging in his mind. But in the end, he calmed himself down and tried his best to stay calm. When did the Patriarch know? Su Zimo asked. Unconsciously, he had changed the way he addressed the Patriarch of the Academy. The Patriarch of the Academy shook his head slightly and seemed to be helpless about Su Zimo's reaction. He said, I sensed it when you first broke through hundreds of years after you entered the Academy. But don't worry, I have already set up several prohibitions around your cave residence to help you hide the aura of the creation Qinglian. No one can detect it. Su Zimo was silent. Although he didn't show it on his face, he was still alert. The Patriarch of the Academy's eyes seemed to contain infinite wisdom. He chuckled and said, Do you really think that I didn't notice a creation Qinglian constantly cultivating in the Academy? If so, I don't need to be the Patriarch. At this moment, Su Zimo had gradually calmed down from the initial shock. If the Patriarch of the Academy really had any evil intentions towards him, there were too many opportunities for him to do so. Even now, if the Patriarch of the Academy wanted his Qinglian real body, he could directly attack him. He had no power to resist. Moreover, the Patriarch of the Academy had saved his life and given him a transmission jade talisman. This time, he helped him block the killing intent of King Jin. More importantly, if the Patriarch of the Academy really had any evil intentions towards him, there was no need for him to reveal it today. Now, the Patriarch of the Academy was willing to reveal it openly, which proved that he was magnanimous. It was a bit sudden, so I didn't get over it immediately. Please forgive me, master. Su Zimo looked apologetic. It's okay. The patriarch of the academy smiled and said, I told you this because I want you to relax. At least in the academy, you don't have to be careful and tense every day. Of course, you still have to be careful outside and don't expose your bloodline easily. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. All right. The patriarch of the academy said, go back and cultivate. Don't feel any psychological burden or pressure. Disciple will take his leave. Su Zimo bowed and left. After leaving the palace of heaven and earth, Su Zimo walked in the direction of the inner sect. Only then did he realize that at some point in time, his green robe had been soaked in sweat. A breeze blew past, and a chill came from his body. Su Zimo let out a long sigh. No wonder it was said that the patriarch of the academy could deduce all things, see through the mysteries of heaven, and have unparalleled wisdom. Under the gaze of the patriarch of the academy, Su Zimo found that he had no secrets at all. Su Zimo laughed at himself. All these years, he had been very careful in the academy, as if he was treading on thin ice. He had tried his best to hide Qinglian's bloodline, but he did not expect that someone had already seen through it. At this moment, a figure came from not far away. In the blink of an eye, it was the painting fairy, Mo Qing. Senior sister. Su Zimo greeted her. Mo Qing looked at Su Zimo and said, I just heard that senior brother Yuehua deliberately made things difficult for you. Are you okay? I'm fine. It's over. Su Zimo shook his head and smiled. That's good. Mo Qing looked at Su Zimo, as if she wanted to say something, but stopped. Su Zimo tried to ask, is there anything else, senior sister? Did you give that painting to Araki Takashi? Mo Qing hesitated and asked. Su Zimo was stunned for a moment, but he immediately reacted and said, yes, I gave it to him. Mo Qing asked, what did he say? Did he draw it well? Su Zimo coughed softly and said, I came back after sending the painting. I don't know if he saw it. Mo Qing nodded in response. Su Zimo said, senior sister, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Mo Qing nodded and turned to leave. The two parted and didn't walk far before Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. He suddenly stopped and turned around to call Mo Qing. What's the matter? Mo Qing asked. Su Zimo used his divine sense and asked, there's something I don't know. When I participated in the immortal sect selection, why did senior sister arrive in time? It was because of a letter in Duke Yuan's memory. Now that he looked back at the immortal sect selection, some things seemed too coincidental. Su Zimo originally thought that senior sister Mo Qing arrived because the ice butterfly sensed Dai Yu's aura on him. It was the same situation as in Avicii Hell. But in reality, Qiankuan Academy and Coiling Dragon Mountain Range were very far away. It was impossible for the ice butterfly to sense it, unless senior sister Mo Qing was nearby. But senior sister Mo Qing hadn't gone out in 10,000 years. How could she be near the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range? Su Zimo looked at Mo Qing and asked, did someone ask senior sister to go there? Mo Qing nodded. Su Zimo's pupils contracted. He suppressed the violent fluctuations in his heart and continued to ask, did the academy patriarch ask senior sister to go there? Mo Qing said, it was the academy's 8th elder. Su Zimo was stunned and a trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. After a pause, Su Zimo asked again, is the academy's 8th elder good at deduction? I don't know. Mo Qing shook her head and said, the academy's 8th elder is good at refining weapons. He's in charge of all the weapons in the academy. How can he be good at deduction? Only the successive sect masters have the opportunity to cultivate that kind of technique that can deduce all living things. No one else is qualified. Mo Qing thought for a while and said, at that time, the academy's 8th elder had just returned from outside. He saw me and told me about the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range and suggested that I go there. I didn't want to care about it. But the academy's 8th elder said that it was the zither immortal, Mengao. And as the painting immortal, it was most appropriate for me to go there. So I went there. I see. Su Zimo sighed as if relieved of a heavy burden. He murmured, "So I thought too much." His question seemed ordinary, but it was the key to the whole thing. If the painting Immortal's appearance was facilitated by the Academy's patriarch, then the mysterious letter that Commandery Prince Yuanzhua received was most likely from the Academy's patriarch. The pursuit of Yuanzhua, the appearance of the Zither Immortal, the reaction of the Flying Celestial Sect, the Mountain and Sea Immortal Sect, Imperial Wind Temple, Yang Ruox's insistence, Senior Sister Mo Qing's appearance. All these variables were within the Academy's patriarch's plan. Su Zimo believed that the Academy's patriarch definitely had the ability to do so. But now, because of Mo Qing's explanation, his speculation was not valid. If the Academy's patriarch wanted to do something to him, there was no need to involve an Academy elder. Senior Sister Mo Qing's appearance was just a coincidence. The clues about the letter from Commandery Prince Yuanzhua were cut off. "Why are you asking this?" Mo Qing frowned and asked. "Nothing." Su Zimo smiled and said, "I'm just asking." Chapter 2487. After Su Zimo bid farewell to Mo Qing, he returned to his cave abode and prepared to cultivate in seclusion again. There were still 1,000 years before the divine firmament immortal gathering. Normally speaking, during this period, most high-level heaven immortals would choose to leave the mountain and go out to train. They would look for people to fight and try their best to squeeze into the predicted heaven leaderboard. Su Zimo was already ranked 17th on the heaven leaderboard. Even if he did not participate in other battles, he was already qualified to compete for the heaven leaderboard at the divine firmament immortal gathering. Therefore, in the remaining 1,000 years, he planned to cultivate and strive to reach another level. The master of the Academy was right. As a level 6 celestial immortal, if he did not use the Green Lotus bloodline, he had almost no chance of winning against Yun Ting. Over the years, he had been improving and obtaining many opportunities, but Yun Ting had not stopped either. Just by looking at the information about Yun Ting on the heaven leaderboard, he knew that Yun Ting had obtained as many opportunities as he had, or even more. Even if he could cultivate to the 7th stage, he should only have a 50% chance of winning against Yun Ting. Facing an opponent like Yun Ting, even if there was only a difference of 1 level, it would be a huge gap in the battle. Not to mention the difference of 2 or 3 levels. Su Zimo cultivated in seclusion in his cave abode and did not see outsiders. A few days later, Momo returned to the cave abode and continued to take care of all the trivial matters in the cave abode with Lu Ping. Over the past 6 months, many heaven immortals had come to the Academy to challenge Su Zimo. Among them, there was no lack of experts who were predicted to be in the top 20 of the heaven leaderboard. The fastest way to enter the heaven leaderboard or improve one's ranking was to challenge an opponent on the heaven leaderboard. Su Zimo was ranked 17th on the heaven leaderboard. But his cultivation level was only at the 6th level of mystic essence. Compared to a top heaven immortal, there was a difference of 3 levels. In the eyes of many heaven immortals, this was an insurmountable gap. Moreover, there were too few predictions of Su Zimo's battle results on the heaven leaderboard. There were only 2 battles. Although the battle in Thunder City had caused a great impact, the results were too few. It also made many celestial immortals think that Su Zimo was only strong in appearance and was not as strong as the legend said. What's more, Su Zimo's ranking in everyone's eyes was a huge overstatement. In the evaluation given by Divine Firmament Palace, Su Zimo's strength could only be ranked in the 60s or 70s at most. The only reason he was able to enter the top 20 was because he had once dodged an assassination attempt by Shadowless. However, this could only mean that Su Zimo's escaping skills were not bad, but it could not be reflected in his combat strength. As for the battle between Su Zimo and Fang Qingyun in Heaven and Earth Academy, due to the Academy's prohibition, outsiders didn't know the details. Many people only knew that Fang Qingyun had perished, but did not know that he had died at the hands of Su Zimo. Many factors added together made many celestial immortals think that Su Zimo was a soft persimmon that was relatively easy to challenge on the heaven leaderboard. For half a year, Su Zimo had been in seclusion and refused to fight. No matter how people shouted and provoked him outside, he remained indifferent, as if he didn't see or hear them. This kind of reaction confirmed the speculation of everyone. Not only did the number of celestial immortals who came to challenge him not decrease, but there were more and more. Although there were benefits to entering the heaven leaderboard in advance and becoming famous in the world, there was also great pressure. Su Zimo was wholeheartedly cultivating and wanted to improve, so he was unwilling to pay attention to these challengers. And Momo and Lu Ping had received instructions from Su Zimo, so they naturally blocked all the challengers that came. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. This is the 677th challenger that he has rejected, right? It should be the 678th. After Lu Ping and Momo rejected another challenger, they discussed in a low voice in the cave. Lu Ping said, "Senior brother always avoids battles. It has a certain impact on his ranking on the heaven leaderboard." Someone came to challenge him, but Su Zimo chose to avoid the battle. Naturally, Divine Firmament Palace's evaluation of him would be lowered. Momo nodded and said, "I also noticed that on the latest heaven leaderboard, young master has dropped a few places." Lu Ping raised his fist and said, "If you ask me, senior brother should pick a tough one among these challengers and teach him a lesson for everyone to see. It would also save this group of people from coming to challenge him every 2 to 3 days. It's so annoying." At this moment, another figure arrived outside the cave. Momo could clearly see the situation outside the cave through the reflection crystal in the cave. Seeing the person, Momo could not help but praise, "This cultivator is really beautiful. It's useless even if she's beautiful. Just send her away casually," Lu Ping said casually without even looking. Momo nodded and sent a voice transmission to the outside of the cave. "Fellow Taoist, I'm sorry. My young master is cultivating in seclusion and will not fight with you. Please leave. I'm Xie Qingqing. I'm not here to challenge you." The person smiled and said, "I'm here to pay a visit to Brother Su." Lu Ping pursed his lips and said, "Half of the challengers said that they were here to visit." The moment he said that, his expression changed and he reacted. "Xie Qingqing?" Lu Ping hurriedly took a look at the reflection crystal and said, "It's indeed him." Back in the capital of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, Lu Ping had met this Duke Qingqing. Although he was a man, he was more beautiful and handsome than most women. Lu Ping had a deep impression of him. Furthermore, the Scarlet Princess had a good relationship with him. A year ago, the Duke Qingqing was also the first to discover the whereabouts of Feng Zi and Su Zimo. "Let's ask senior brother." Lu Ping did not dare to make a decision on this matter. He pulled Momo and ran towards Su Zimo's cultivation cave. When Su Zimo heard that Xie Qingqing had arrived, he did not hesitate and went to the outside of the cave to personally welcome Xie Qingqing in. The two of them did not interact much. Xie Qingqing had helped him a few times and he still remembered it. Although this Duke of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom was an idle duke with no power or influence, Su Zimo had a very good impression of him. The two of them sat down, and Momo served 2 cups of hot tea with a refreshing fragrance. Xie Qingqing smiled and said, "Brother Su, the battle at Thunder City a year ago shook the divine firmament realm. After I heard about it, I was also shocked." "It's nothing." Su Zimo said, "Yuan's were chased after me many times. I had to return the favor." Brother Su returned the favor once and destroyed Yuan Zhua and his Thunder City. Xie Qingqing shook her head and chuckled. After pausing for a while, Xie Qingqing said, "I heard that Brother Su has not been peaceful for the past year. There has been an endless stream of challengers." "There have been many challengers, but I have ignored them." Su Zimo smiled and did not mind. There were not many people in the same realm who could be considered a match for him. He did not even bother to look at the rest. Su Zimo thought of the two of them and asked, "By the way, Su Shi, are Su Xiaotian and his son still at your place? How are they?" "Pretty good." Xie Qingqing said, "However, Su Shi's talent is limited. He might not be able to become a heaven immortal in the future. Su Xiaotian's talent is not bad, and his potential is not small." The two of them chatted for a while. Although Xie Qingqing looked relaxed and chatted with Su Zimo, she seemed to have a lot on her mind. The second update was estimated to be at night. End of chapter. Chapter 2488. Brother Xie, what's on your mind? Su Zimo asked. Xie Qingqing smiled bitterly and said, Brother Su, you have sharp eyes and I can't hide it from you. This time, I do have something that I need your help with. At the foot of Ash Cloud Mountain, you also wanted to talk about this, right? Su Zimo smiled, not surprised. At the foot of Ash Cloud Mountain, he had promised Xie Qingqing that if he had any problems in the future, he could come to him. Xie Qingqing was moved, but he hesitated. After a year, Xie Qingqing came again. If he wasn't wrong, it should be about the matter that he didn't say. Xie Qingqing didn't hide it and said, I didn't say it at that time. First, I didn't make up my mind whether to participate or not. Second, this matter is too dangerous, and it has a certain requirement on the cultivator's battle strength. At that time, Brother Su had just left the mountain and was only a stage 6 heavenly immortal. I didn't know much about Brother Su's battle strength. Even if I invited Brother Su, I might not be able to help. Instead, I might drag you down. Xie Qingqing smiled and said, Later, the Battle of Thunder City spread throughout the divine firmament. Only then did I know about Brother Su's means. What is it? Brother Xie, tell me. Su Zimo asked. Xie Qingqing said, Brother Su, you should know about Xie Tianhong of Lingsha County. He died more than 2,000 years ago, but his corpse was never found. Su Zimo thought, Xie Tianhong was killed by Wu Dao's true body with a slap. His corpse is under the Avicii hell. No one can find it. Xie Qingqing continued, Xie Tianhong was the Lingsha County's duke. All these years, because his corpse was never found, the position of Lingsha County's duke has always been empty. Last year, Father finally relented and decided to choose a new duke of the Lingsha County from the other dukes and princesses. There were more than 1,000 ancient cities under Lingsha County, and tens of millions of miles of territory. The Duke of Lingsha County had great power and a noble status, far surpassing ordinary dukes. Now that this position was empty, it would naturally cause a fight among the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom's bloodline. Xie Qingqing took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, I don't want to miss this opportunity. I want to try. Su Zimo remained silent. Before this, Xie Qingqing was just an idle duke. In the royal bloodline, she was at the bottom. She was dispensable and did not have much of a presence. However, it was also because of this that his situation was relatively peaceful. If he participated in this kind of struggle, his future would be filled with countless open and covert struggles, and a rain of blood. For a place like the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, where the royal bloodline was abundant, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to stand out among the many princes and princesses. Have you decided? Su Zimo looked at Xie Qingqing and asked solemnly. Xie Qingqing nodded. She subconsciously clenched her fists and said, I want to become a prince who rules over a region. I want to have power and status. Only then can I clear my mother's name. Su Zimo had once heard Princess Qi Hong mention that Xie Qingqing's mother did not have a good background. Therefore, his status among the commandery kings and commandery princesses was not high. All right, I'll help you. Seeing that Xie Qingqing had made up her mind, Su Zimo did not hesitate and agreed immediately. What are the requirements of the commandery king of the Lingsha County? Su Zimo asked again. Xie Qingqing said, My father will not let the commandery kings who have cultivated to the true immortal realm manage such a large territory. It is easy to distract them and affect their cultivation. In other words, as long as they reach the heavenly immortal realm, they will be qualified to compete for the position of commandery king of the Lingsha County. However, their cultivation cannot be too low. First or second stage heavenly immortals are definitely not enough. Su Zimo scanned with his divine sense. Xie Qingqing was a 7th stage heavenly immortal. Xie Qingqing laughed self-deprecatingly and said, I barely qualify. Su Zimo asked, How will the commandery king of the Lingsha County be selected this time? This time, my father placed the commandery king's seal of the Lingsha County in an ancient ruin. Xie Qingqing said, Then, the commandery kings who participate in the competition can each lead 100 heavenly immortals into this ruin to seize the commandery king's seal. These 100 heavenly immortals can be chosen at will. They don't have to be from the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Oh! Hearing this, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He said, in that case, among these 100 heavenly immortals, there will be experts on the heaven list. That's right. Xie Qingqing nodded and said, according to what I know, among the top 10 on the heaven list, there are a few who have come out of seclusion to help the other commandery kings seize the Lingxia County seal. Su Zimo nodded secretly. The Flaming Sun Immortal King's arrangement obviously had a deeper meaning. He was not only interested in the personal strength of his descendants, but also the connections, and influence of these descendants in the divine firmament immortal realm. Xie Qingqing said, according to what I know, the heaven list has been announced. In the past year, many heavenly immortals have come out of seclusion to find an opportunity to enter the heaven list. And this primordial ruin is the best opportunity. This primordial ruin seal battle will be the best opportunity for many heavenly immortals to refresh their rankings and squeeze into the heaven list. Su Zimo nodded and suddenly asked, will Yun Ting go? I don't think so. Xie Qingqing smiled bitterly. If someone can invite Commandery King Yun Ting to come out of seclusion, there will be no suspense in this battle for the Lingxia County seal. Su Zimo nodded. He was now a Stage 6 heavenly immortal. If he were to go against Yun Ting, his chances of winning were not high. After a pause, Su Zimo asked again, by the way, where is the primordial ruin that you mentioned just now? It's a fragment of an ancient battlefield. Xie Qingqing explained, I heard that it might be an unprecedented battle that happened between heaven and earth in an ancient era. The battlefield was so huge that heaven and earth were shattered. This primordial ruin is one of the small fragments. It is generally known as the Shura battlefield. Shura battlefield? Su Zimo raised his eyebrows slightly. Xie Qingqing nodded and continued, although it's just a small fragment, there's a world inside. Moreover, there's a strange blood qi in this battlefield that has an obvious suppressive effect on many divine abilities and secret techniques of cultivators. Chapter 2489. The Sky Wolf had once told the martial Dao body some information about the Azura tribe. According to Sky Wolf, the Shura tribe were not humans, demons, ghosts, or gods, but they were born with great strength. They were ugly, but they were also ferocious fighters. Moreover, it was impossible to detect their cultivation level. They could only be judged by their appearance. If a Shura tribe member reached the true self realm, they would have 2 heads and 4 arms. 3 heads and 6 arms was the divine ability of the Shura tribe. However, it was modified and reinvented by the ancestors, and evolved into a peerless divine ability that could be cultivated by humans. Su Zimo asked, how many dukes are there in the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom this time? Including me, there are 8 dukes and 1 princess. Xie Qingqing pondered for a while and said, Brother Su, these 8 dukes are all stronger than me in the Flaming Sun royal family. How many people have you gathered? Su Zimo asked again. At the mention of this, Xie Qingqing smiled bitterly and said, not even 20. Su Zimo was not surprised by this. A good bird chose a good tree to nest in. In the eyes of the heavenly immortals of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, Xie Qingqing was not a wise ruler. She had no backing, no background, and no potential. Xie Qingqing said, other than the Shura tribe, there are also some yakshas and other powerful beasts in the Shura battlefield. Yakshas? Su Zimo frowned slightly. He seemed to have seen the word yaksha before in the Avicii hell. Xie Qingqing explained, it is said that they are a tribe from an ancient era, the yakshas. They are extinct now. The creatures of the yakshas are extremely ugly, like ghosts, so they are called yakshas. Su Zimo frowned and a thought flashed through his mind. Xie Qingqing continued, in fact, these creatures are already dead, but because of the special blood qi in the Shura battlefield, they are reincarnated. These creatures have no sense of reason. They only know how to attack and kill. Moreover, the blood qi on the battlefield in Shura also has some influence on cultivators. If one's Tao heart isn't strong enough, it's very likely that one will be invaded by the baleful blood energy and lose all reason, becoming a puppet controlled by the baleful blood energy. Due to the dangers of this trip, I don't have many people around me that I can use. As a matter of fact, Xie Qingqing had over 1,000 celestial immortals under her command. However, there were not many cultivators who had truly reached the 8th or 9th stage. Some of them might not be willing to follow him into the battlefield of Shura. One had to know that in the Shura battlefield, in addition to facing the mindless creatures like Shura, he also had to face the powerhouses on the heaven list. Xie Qingqing could not even gather 100 heaven immortals, so she had no chance of winning against the other 8 dukes. Since it's about seizing seals, it might not be useful even if we have more people. Su Zimo comforted him. When will the battle in Shura begin? 3 days later, in the king city of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Alright, I'll look for you in 3 days. 3 days later, many cultivators gathered in the guest hall of the Qiankuan Academy. There were about 1,000 of them, and they all wore different clothes and had different auras. The sect badges on their waists also proved that these cultivators came from different sections. Almost all of them were 9th stage celestial immortals. Other than some cultivators from the major immortal Tao clans, there were also heaven immortals from the 3 major immortal kingdoms and the other 3 major immortal sects. These cultivators from the heaven grade forces were all sitting at the front of the guest hall. Whoever can obtain the County Lord's seal will be the new County Lord of the Lingxia County. I heard that there are many experts on the heaven roll in the battle at Shura this time. It's said that Zhong Feiyu, who is ranked 3rd on the heaven roll, was invited by Princess Yu Yan. Not only that, there are a few in the top 10 of the heaven roll. Su Zimo actually dares to join in the fun? It's quite a big commotion this time. From what I know, the Divine Firmament Palace will even send a few true immortals to record the battle at Shura and update the heaven roll's rankings at any time. Where can we see the real-time rankings? I want to see how much trouble this Su Zimo can cause. Who knows, he might be suppressed as soon as he enters. Is there a need to ask? The Qiankuan Academy will definitely see it. Many cultivators turned their heads and looked at Yan Bingying and the other disciples of the academy. Yan Bingying snorted coldly. These cultivators had bad intentions and were waiting to see senior brother Su make a fool of himself. However, she did not chase them away and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, please move to the square in the inner yard. The heaven roll will be updated there in real time." Chapter 2490. Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. More than 10 cultivators stood in front of the palace. They were all heaven immortals. Princess Qingqing were all here. Who are we waiting for? A stage 9 heaven immortal in the crowd asked. There's no hurry. You'll know when the time comes. Xie Qingqing smiled and kept them in suspense. Another stage 8 heaven immortal hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, Princess Qingqing, I heard that there are a few people who are predicted to be in the top 10 of the heaven leaderboard this time. We have no chance of winning against them. We're just participating. I heard that there are many treasures in the battlefield in Shura. We'll go in and try our luck. Maybe we'll get some inheritance, another person said. It said that Brother Yu Ying has just received a secret inheritance and his combat strength has increased greatly. With this battle in Shura, he has a chance to enter the heaven leaderboard. Several cultivators looked at a young man in the crowd at the same time. The young man called Yu Ying had a smug look in his eyes. He smiled and said, It's just a chance. It's not certain yet. Xie Qingqing saw that the crowd did not have any hope for him to get the seal. She smiled and said, Everyone, don't be discouraged. With this expert that I invited, although we don't have many people, we're definitely not weak. What expert? Could he be on the heaven leaderboard? Everyone's eyes lit up. Xie Qingqing smiled and did not say anything. Not long after, a scholar in a green robe walked over. He seemed to be walking slowly, but in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Xie Qingqing and greeted her. Some cultivators frowned and looked confused. One of the cultivators had been to the 10,000-year convention and recognized him. He said in a low voice, Qiankuan Academy, Su Zimo. That's him. Everyone's eyes flashed with surprise. Although many of them had never seen Su Zimo before, they had heard of his name. The battle in Thunder City had a huge impact. Moreover, the Heaven Leaderboard had been released for more than a year. Although Su Zimo only had 2 battles, he was at the top and was easily remembered. Yu Ying frowned slightly. If it was someone else on the Heaven Leaderboard, he had nothing to say. But in the past year, rumors about Su Zimo had spread everywhere. Many people said that his prediction of the Heaven List's ranking was exaggerated. In addition, Su Zimo had chosen to avoid all challengers in the past year, which further confirmed these rumors. "Let me introduce you," Xie Qingqing said. "I'm sure all of you have heard of him before. This is Heaven and Earth Academy's predicted 24th place on the Heaven ranking, Su Zimo." For the past year, Su Zimo had avoided all challengers, causing his evaluation on the prediction Heaven list to drop. His ranking dropped from 17th to 24th. Apart from Yu Ying, the rest of the cultivators cupped their fists. No matter what the rumors were, Su Zimo was someone on the prediction Heaven leaderboard after all. They couldn't even touch the edge of the prediction Heaven leaderboard. This is Yu Ying. He also has the strength to enter the Heaven ranking. Xie Qingqing introduced the dozen or so Heaven immortals behind her to Su Zimo. Su Zimo cupped his fists slightly and nodded as a greeting. "Su Zimo of Heaven and Earth Academy, your name has been like thunder to my ears over the years. I've heard a lot about you." Yu Ying smiled and said, "I heard that fellow Taoist Su has not dared to accept any challengers in the past year. I'm really surprised that you can participate in the Shura battlefield today." Yu Ying seemed to be smiling and was extremely polite, but his words were filled with sarcasm. Su Zimo's expression was indifferent. He did not even look at this person. After all, he was someone on Xie Qingqing's side. He could not be bothered. "Yu Ying." Xie Qingqing frowned slightly and reminded him in a low voice. Yu Ying shrugged slightly and did not speak anymore. Originally, his status was the highest among this group of people. Now that Su Zimo had arrived and replaced his position, he was naturally unhappy. "Yo!" At this moment, a chuckle came from not far away. "Isn't this Brother Qingqing? But are you also going to enter the Shura battlefield?" When Xie Qingqing heard this voice, she could already guess who it was without looking back. She saw a group of cultivators rushing over. There were exactly 101 of them. The leader was a fat man in a yellow robe. He was Duke Ichio of the Flaming Sun Celestial Kingdom, a rank 8 Heaven Immortal. Haha. In the blink of an eye, Duke Ichio led a group of Heaven Immortal experts to the front. When he saw the 18 cultivators on Xie Qingqing's side, he could not help but laugh unscrupulously. "My good brother, you've only gathered so few people and you still want to enter the Shura battlefield to seize the seal?" Duke Ichio laughed and said, "If you ask me, you should hurry up and go home. With these few people, they will all die if they can't even see the Lingxia seal." Damn. Duke Ichio's eyes fell on Su Zimo. He widened his eyes and said with an exaggerated expression, "Are you serious? You've only recruited a dozen Heaven Immortals. There's even a rank 6 Heaven Immortal among them. Are they just to make up the numbers?" Ha! A burst of laughter came from the crowd behind Duke Ichio. Among the Heaven Immortals behind Duke Ichio, the one with the lowest cultivation level was a rank 8 Heaven Immortal. The rest were rank 9 Heaven Immortals. In the eyes of the crowd, even a rank 7 Heaven Immortal was not qualified to participate in a battle of this level, let alone a rank 6 Heaven Immortal. Su Zimo's expression was calm. Xie Qingqing and the others, on the other hand, had ugly expressions. They were naturally indignant to be looked down upon and ridiculed in such a manner. However, they did not dare to say anything as the other party had more people. Yu Ying snorted and said, "Don't be fooled by his rank 6 Heaven Immortal. He's a genius expert ranked 24th on the predicted Heaven list, Su Zimo from Qiankuan Academy." When they heard the 3 words, Su Zimo, the laughter on the other side gradually stopped. Many cultivators looked at Su Zimo with a hint of suspicion and caution. Only the cold-looking man beside Duke Ichio suddenly raised his head. 2 rays of cold light shot out from his eyes and he did not hide the hostility in his eyes at all. "It's him." Yu Yin recognized this person and his heart skipped a beat. He was ranked 67th on the predicted heaven list, Sword Immortal Bihan from Flying Celestial Sect. Sword Immortal Bihan spoke slowly. The evaluation on the predicted heaven list is very clear. This Su Zimo only has 2 battle records. The reason why he's ranked first is because he's good at escaping. A few more sneers rang out from the crowd, but they were much more restrained than the unbridled mockery from before. No matter what, the battle in Thunder City was still an extremely powerful deterrent to most cultivators. Duke Ichio purposely asked, how is he compared to fellow Taoist Bihan? If we're talking about escaping, I'll naturally admit defeat. Sword Immortal Bihan said, if it's a normal battle, I'll consider him capable if he can take 10 strikes from me. Duke Ichio clapped his hands and said loudly, Brother Qingqing, how about we let these two fight before entering the battlefield in Shura? Xie Qingqing took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She said, when we enter the battlefield in Shura, we'll naturally have the chance to fight. Ha! Duke Ichio laughed loudly. I knew that you wouldn't dare to. Your mother is a lowly servant who ascended from the lower realm. Even if half of your father's blood flows in your body, you can't change the lowly cowardice in your mother's bones. Chapter 2491. When Xie Qingqing heard that, she could no longer hold it in. Her beautiful face turned menacing and her gaze was ferocious, as though she wanted to skin Duke Ichio alive. His mother had always been his Achilles heel. No matter how Duke Ichio scolded him, he could tolerate it. However, when Duke Ichio scolded his mother in such a manner, his blood boiled and he wanted to attack Duke Ichio. Duke, don't be rash. Heaven Immortal Yu Ying stepped forward from behind and grabbed Xie Qingqing's arm tightly, whispering, Duke, calm down. They have the advantage in numbers and there's an expert like Sword Immortal Bihan. Don't fight them head-on. Xie Qingqing's arms trembled slightly. She clenched her fists so tightly that she did not even realize that her fingernails had pierced the flesh of her palms. Brother Xie, can we fight here? Su Zimo suddenly asked through voice transmission. Xie Qingqing was stunned at first, but she soon realized something. She looked at Su Zimo with some worry, excitement, and anticipation. She hurriedly replied through voice transmission, you can fight, but don't kill anyone. After all, this was the capital of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. If Su Zimo really killed Duke Ichio, it would cause a lot of trouble. That was also something that Xie Qingqing did not want to see. Heaven Immortal Bihan was still unaware of the danger and smirked coldly. I heard that Su Zimo is also a servant. No wonder he's as timid as a mouse and did not dare to accept any challengers for the past year. Heh! Initially, Su Zimo's head was lowered and he seemed to be in a daze. However, the moment Heaven Immortal Bihan finished his sentence, he suddenly raised his head and opened his eyes. Like lightning, he looked at Duke Ichio and Heaven Immortal Bihan. The two of them suddenly felt their hairs stand on end and they shuddered. At that moment, the two of them had an illusion at the same time. It was as though they were targeted by the most ferocious demon beast in the world and could be torn into pieces in the next moment. Before they could react, a figure flashed before them and Su Zimo had already arrived before them. It was too fast. Su Zimo's palm instantly landed on Duke Ichio's face. Duke Ichio's fat body was sent flying by Su Zimo's slap. He fell heavily into the crowd and half of his face was badly mutilated. Your Highness! Celestial Immortal Bihan was shocked. With a flip of his hand, he attempted to pull out his Bihan sword and kill Su Zimo. However, after sending Duke Ichio flying with a slap, Su Zimo did not chase after Duke Ichio. Instead, he turned around and pressed down. Clang! The Bihan sword was only halfway out when Su Zimo pressed it back. Su Zimo stepped forward and pointed his elbow at Celestial Immortal Bihan's chest. At the same time, he flipped his hand and lifted Celestial Immortal Bihan's chin. Almost at the same time, Heaven Immortal Bihan's chest was pierced by Su Zimo's elbow. His heart was ruptured and blood gushed out. This elbow strike was like a spear stabbing down. Coupled with the toughness and strength of Qinglian's true body, Heaven Immortal Bihan's body could not withstand it at all and was like a piece of paper. With his heart shattered, Heaven Immortal Bihan's blood chi flowed out rapidly. Bang! Almost at the same time, Heaven Immortal Bihan's chin was shattered by Su Zimo's flip of his hand. His entire head reared backwards, and with a crack, his spine was broken. His head drooped down from his back, and it was a horrifying sight. Su Zimo's melee combat techniques were extremely ferocious. All of true Immortal Bihan's methods were above his sword techniques. In the end, Su Zimo seized the initiative, and his combat strength was crippled by more than half before he could even unsheath his sword. He was severely injured by Su Zimo with just a single move. Su Zimo did not let him off after gaining the upper hand. He had yet to realize how terrifying Su Zimo was and instinctively thought that Su Zimo had succeeded because of a sneak attack. Fu, Su Zimo smiled at him. At this distance, if he wanted to suppress Duke Ichio, the others would not even have a chance to save him. Before his laughter ended, Duke Ichio felt his vision blur once more. It was a familiar situation with the exact same outcome. Duke Ichio's face was slapped hard once more. This time, before his fat body could fly out, Su Zimo grabbed him by the hair and pulled him back. Duke Ichio felt a sharp pain on the top of his head, and his scalp was almost torn apart. The close to 100 cultivators at the side stood rooted to the ground, not knowing what to do. Before they could make a move, Duke Ichio had already fallen into Su Zimo's hands. Everyone was cautious and no one dared to act rashly. Su Zimo pressed down on the top of Duke Ichio's head and sealed his essence spirit so that it could not escape from his body. Then, he slapped Duke Ichio's face again and again with his free palm. That's what you get for your cheap mouth. Su Zimo muttered softly, and his hands did not stop moving. In just a few slaps, Duke Ichio's head was swollen into a bloody pig's head, and he did not look human at all. End of chapter. Chapter 2492. The rage in Xie Qingqing's heart gradually calmed down when she saw that. She only felt a sense of satisfaction that she had never felt before. Just now, even if he attacked forcefully, he would most likely not be able to do anything to Duke Ichio, and this matter would be left unsettled. However, Su Zimo appeared and crippled Heaven Immortal Bihan with thunderous means. Then he captured Duke Ichio and slapped him. This could be considered as helping him vent his anger. Furthermore, a dignified duke was punished in such a manner in front of everyone. It was even crueler than killing him. From today onwards, Duke Ichio would become a joke in the royal family of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, and his status might even be lower than his. In reality, Su Zimo's punishment for Duke Ichio was not just a slap. He controlled the strength of his palm, and every time he slapped Duke Ichio's face, it would cause a certain degree of shock to his essence spirit. Once the essence spirit was injured, it would be extremely difficult to recover without extreme measures. Even if Duke Ichio recovered from his injuries in the future, it would be difficult for him to break through in his cultivation realm, and there might even be problems with his head. Since Su Zimo chose to attack, he had to get rid of all future troubles. Duke Ichio was naturally not a threat to him. However, there was no guarantee that he would not attack Xie Qingqing in the future. In reality, Duke Ichio lived like a prince and had never encountered such an encounter before. He was already scared out of his wits, and his mind went blank after being slapped by Su Zimo. If he was still conscious, he would have admitted defeat and begged for mercy. For someone like him who bullied the weak and feared the strong, he would have to avoid Xie Qingqing in the future, let alone take revenge on her. He was afraid of being beaten up again. Finally, the sound of slapping stopped. Duke Ichio's mouth was completely smashed. His essence spirit was shaken, and there were hidden injuries. The healing speed of the wounds on his face was also greatly reduced, and his face was covered in blood. It's about time, right? Su Zimo turned back to look at Xie Qingqing and asked with a smile. Xie Qingqing was stunned for a moment before nodding hurriedly. Yes. Looking at Su Zimo's smile, the dozen heaven immortals behind him could not help but shudder. Who would have thought that the gentle and smiling scholar in front of him would be so ruthless and ruthless? Heaven Immortal Yu Ying's face was pale. Recalling his dissatisfaction with Su Zimo, he couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. With a casual toss, Su Zimo threw Duke Ichio into the crowd. The cultivators on the other side hurriedly stepped forward to catch it. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. "Let's go," Su Zimo said. Xie Qingqing nodded and brought Su Zimo and the others into the royal palace of the Flaming Sun Immortal Empire. Duke Ichio, Duke Ichio." The cultivators hurriedly took out the elixirs they had collected and fed them to Duke Ichio. They shook him gently and shouted. Commandery Prince Ichio took a few elixirs and slowly woke up after a long while. "Duke Ichio, what should we do? They've gone too far. We can't let them off just like that. My Duke, should we chase after them?" Everyone was talking at once. "That's not enough? Are you trying to kill me?" Duke Ichio was so frightened that he shuddered. All the fat on his body trembled as well. His pig head shook like a rattledrum as he said in horror, "Leave quickly, leave quickly. Stay far away from that person and don't participate in the battle in Shura." Under the urging of Duke Ichio, the group of cultivators did not even enter the palace before they fled in a hurry. Under Xie Qingqing's lead, everyone headed towards the west side of the royal palace. Along the way, the other cultivators' attitudes towards Su Zimo changed drastically. Even Yu Yin became obedient. Fellow Taoist Su's methods are truly terrifying. Yu Yin praised, "In my opinion, the predicted 24th place on the heaven roll seems a little too low." Su Zimo smiled but didn't reply. Yu Yin coughed softly and said, "Fellow Taoist Su's attack directly destroyed Duke Ichio's thoughts of seizing the seal. Before entering the battle in Shura, Duke Ichio has one less opponent." That's right. The rest of the cultivators also agreed. Su Zimo still ignored Sky Immortal Yu Ying. Sky Immortal Yu Ying was embarrassed and had no choice but to keep quiet. "If you want to enter the battle in Shura, you have to pass through a special teleportation array in the west." Xie Qingqing and Su Zimo talked as they led the group through the royal palace. Not long after, they arrived at their destination. There was a square in front of them and hundreds of people had already arrived. They were divided into several different groups and were talking to each other. Among the groups, the leader was wearing the unique imperial robe of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. There were circles of blazing suns embroidered on it, and it was very easy to recognize. They were obviously members of the royal family of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. "Brother Su, that woman is Princess Yu Yen. She's also the only woman in the royal family this time," Xie Qingqing whispered to Su Zimo. As a woman, she was qualified to fight for the Duke's seal. It was clear that this woman's status in the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom was not low. However, Su Zimo's gaze only lingered on Princess Yu Yen for a brief moment before landing on a man beside her. His gaze narrowed slightly. This man was wearing a long robe with flying fish embroidered on it. His long hair was tied up high and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. There was a sinister smile on his face and a cold light flashed in his eyes from time to time. This was an expert. Although he was very far away, he could sense an extremely dangerous aura from this man. The person beside Princess Yu Yen is predicted to be third on the heaven leaderboard, Zhong Feiyu from the Flying Immortal Sect. Xie Qingqing whispered, "Because Yu Yen invited Zhong Feiyu out of seclusion, she has a high chance of getting the Duke's seal this time." Zhong Feiyu, a reincarnated true immortal, was predicted to be second on the heaven leaderboard. It was only because Yun Ting had become a level 9 heaven immortal that his ranking dropped by 1. However, the truth was that Yun Ting, Qin Gu, and Zhong Feiyu were the top 3 geniuses. Even the true immortals of the Divine Firmament Palace who predicted the heaven ranking could not come to a conclusion. The young man who is playing with fire in his hand is Duke Yen. Xie Qingqing continued, "He is very talented in the Tao of Fire and my father thinks highly of him. He is now a level 9 heaven immortal." Chapter 2493. When Xie Qingqing's group walked over, they naturally attracted the attention of these teams. When Su Zimo noticed Celestial Immortal Luo Yang, he also noticed Su Zimo. Their gazes clashed in midair. Celestial Immortal Luo Yang was about to look away when he thought of something. His expression changed and his pupils contracted. "It's him." A look of disbelief flashed across celestial immortal Luo Yang's eyes. The mystic immortal from back then was still alive? Moreover, he had cultivated to the level 6 heaven immortal realm? Only a few thousand years had passed? For a heaven immortal with a lifespan of 300,000 years, a few thousand years was just a blink of an eye. That puny mystic immortal from back then had grown to such a level in a few thousand years. He was almost catching up to him. How was that possible? This person must have ascended from the lower world on the Dragon Abyss planet. How could he have such talent that was comparable to Yun Ting's? Even if he had Yun Ting's talent, how could he have access to Yun Ting's vast cultivation resources and many fortuitous encounters? Moreover, there had been such a huge commotion on the Dragon Abyss planet. A true dragon had even been born and many heaven immortals and earth immortals had died. Even his senior brother true immortal Wu Feng, the Moonlight Sword immortal, and the Zither immortal Meng Yao, the three true immortal powerhouses of the academy, had escaped with injuries. This person was only a mystic immortal. How could he have survived? Moreover, he had grown to such a level in a few thousand years. Celestial immortal Luo Yang recalled that they had gathered on the Dragon Abyss planet because of the Mystic Realm ruins. Although they had not found the Mystic Realm, there were indeed many divine weapons in the abyss. There was even a pure Yang spirit treasure, the Fiend God's Soul Summoning Banner. However, the Fiend God's Soul Summoning Banner had mysteriously disappeared into thin air. Now that he thought about it, it was very likely that this person had obtained the Fiend God's Soul Summoning Banner. Even the treasures in the Mystic Realm ruins might have been taken by this person. This was the only possibility for this person's cultivation to improve by leaps and bounds and reach such a level. When Su Zimo saw celestial immortal Luo Yang's reaction, he guessed that this person had recalled the scene from back then. However, he did not have any direct conflict with this celestial immortal Luo Yang, nor did they have any deep hatred. Su Zimo glanced at him and retracted his gaze. At this moment, Su Zimo felt a strong sense of hostility and killing intent. As soon as he saw this person, he instantly understood. There was actually a heavenly executioner from the Dajin celestial nation in this group. Others might not recognize him, but almost everyone in the Dajin celestial nation had seen him before. After all, he had been hunted down by the entire state of Jin. Xie Qingsheng also noticed this scene and said, "This person has a strong background. He is the #1 executioner of the Great Jin Dynasty, Song Su. This person's methods are ferocious and his battle prowess is terrifying. He's predicted to be ranked 5th on the heaven ranking. Brother Su, you must be careful." Song Su coldly stared at Su Zimo. The corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. He stretched out his hand and made a beheading gesture at his throat, full of killing intent and provocation. In the face of Song Su's provocation, Su Zimo remained unmoved. Xie Qingsheng continued, "The one who invited Song Su is the Duke of Mingjiong. He is also a level 9 celestial immortal. That is Duke Yu. Among the people he invited, the strongest is Yu Hai from the Mountain and Sea Celestial Sect. He is predicted to be ranked 7th on the heaven leaderboard." Su Zimo nodded inwardly. The fight for the seal this time was indeed lively. Just based on the prediction of the top 10 on the heaven leaderboard, half of them had come. "Who is the red-haired duke over there?" Su Zimo looked to the other side and asked. Xie Qingsheng said, "This is the Duke of Tianhuang. He was born with the divine phoenix bloodline. Father is quite fond of him and named him Tianhuang. He has gathered 100 celestial immortals behind him. Although none of them are predicted to be on the heaven leaderboard, he himself is predicted to be ranked 10th on the heaven leaderboard. He is also the strongest among us." "Oh." Su Zimo raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "If that is the case, then 6 of the top 10 on the heaven leaderboard are predicted to be here." Xie Qingsheng said, "Originally, Xie Tianhuang was not supposed to be in the top 10. However, due to Fang Qingyun's death, there was an empty spot. That is why he is ranked 10th. Including Xie Qingsheng, Su Zimo, and the others, there were already 6 teams in the square. Other than Duke Ichio, there were still 2 dukes who had not arrived." At that moment, a voice sounded from behind them. "Xie Qingsheng, I thought that you were just saying that you would participate in the fight for the seal. I didn't expect you to actually come. Xia Qingqing, Su Zimo, and the others turned around to look. Two teams were heading toward them. The person who spoke had a mocking and arrogant expression on his face. The other duke saw Xia Qingqing and did not say anything. Instead, he nodded slightly and greeted her. Xia Qingqing whispered to Su Zimo, "The one who spoke is the Duke of Xingyan." This time, he invited two experts who are predicted to be on the heaven leaderboard. However, their rankings are not high. One is ranked 79th and the other is ranked 93rd. Su Zimo nodded slightly. From the looks of it, the strength of this Duke of Star Flame was far inferior compared to the previous 5 dukes. Xia Qingqing continued, "The one beside him is the Duke of Sky Bearing. His position in the royal family is similar to mine." The Duke of Xingyan laughed as he walked. "Xia Qingqing, you can't even gather 100 high-level heaven immortals. You still have the nerve to participate in the battle at Shura? Look at the Sky Bearing. Although they invited a group of ordinary people, they have at least gathered 100 people. You guys should go home quickly. Don't embarrass yourself here." At this moment, 2 guards from the Blazing Sun Immortal Empire sped past the entrance. Their expressions were filled with fear, as though something had happened. "What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry? Come down and tell us." The Duke of Xingyan shouted. The 2 guards hesitated for a moment but still came down. One of them said, "Just now, outside the palace, Duke Yiqiu and Duke Qingqing had a conflict. In the end, Heaven Immortal Bai Han was crippled by Su Zimo in 2 moves. He didn't even have the chance to draw his sword. Duke Yiqiu was also beaten by Su Zimo until he was delirious. With his methods, even if he was not a match for them, he could still escape unscathed. But in that case, it would be difficult to help Xia Qingqing obtain the Lingxia seal. Moreover, because he stood on Xia Qingqing's side, it was very likely that it would bring more resistance to Xia Qingqing. Su Zimo said telepathically, "Brother Xia, I came to help you this time, but it might bring you a lot of trouble. I'm afraid that the seal this time will not be that simple." Xia Qingqing smiled and said, "Brother Su, just go ahead. You don't have to worry about me. If Brother Su did not come forward, I would not have a chance at all. But now, at least I see a glimmer of hope." Su Zimo nodded and did not say anything else. Everyone has arrived. At this moment, a figure rushed over from afar. Before the person arrived, the voice arrived first. True Immortal Xieling. Back then, the Earth leaderboard battle of the Millennium Meeting was presided over by this person. Xieling looked around and his gaze fell on Su Zimo. He paused for a moment. He had a deep impression of Su Zimo. Back then, Su Zimo was the top of the Earth leaderboard. But he did not expect that in just over 3,000 years, this Earth Immortal had cultivated to become a level 6 Heavenly Immortal. Moreover, he was ranked high on the Prediction Heaven leaderboard and had just crippled another expert on the Prediction Heaven leaderboard in front of the palace gates. Everyone already knows that the seal battle this time will take place in the battlefield of Shura. Xieling said, "Next, I will explain the rules of the seal battle. This seal seizing battle will last for 1 month. In the central area of the battlefield of Shura, there is a ruined ancient city. When you enter the battlefield of Shura, you must reach the ancient city as soon as possible. Because outside the ancient city, there are many Shura people, yakshas, and many powerful demonic beasts who have been corrupted by the blood chi. If you stay outside, you will have to bear the endless attacks of these creatures. There is some kind of ancient mysterious power in the ancient city. These Shura people have lost their minds, but they do not dare to come close. In the center of the ancient city, there is a lake condensed by the blood chi. That is also the source of the blood chi. The Lingxia seal is on an isolated island in the center of the lake." After a pause, Xieling continued, "On the last day, there will be a Nirvana bridge across the lake, connecting the isolated island and the ancient city. That is your only chance to rush to the isolated island and seize the Lingxia seal. Before that, everyone must be careful not to try to cross the lake. The blood chi surges in the lake all year round, and it is 100 times denser than other areas. Any creature that tries to cross the lake will be devoured by it. In addition, there will be 6 true immortals of the Heaven Leaderboard stationed in the battlefield of Shura. They will pay attention to the seal battle and update the Heaven Leaderboard at any time. Many cultivators were eager to give it a try, looking excited. If they could show their skills in the seal battle and stand out, they would definitely be able to enter the Heaven Leaderboard. This was a rare opportunity for many cultivators to enter the Heaven Leaderboard. Xieling said, "Of course, there may be some divine weapons, ancient legacies, and fortuitous encounters in the battlefield of Shura this time. It will depend on your own luck." Then, Xieling took out a large number of talismans from his storage bag and waved his hand. These talismans turned into rays of spiritual light and landed in front of the cultivators, one for each person. "This is a simple teleportation talisman," Xieling said. "After all, you are all geniuses of the major sections. The Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom does not want you to die in the battlefield of Shura. If you encounter any danger that you cannot resolve, just tear this teleportation talisman and you can immediately leave the battlefield of Shura and return here." End of chapter. Chapter 2495. The cultivators hurriedly put away the teleportation talisman with joy on their faces. With this teleportation talisman in hand, all the cultivators who entered the battlefield in Shura would have a guarantee of safety. Even if they encountered any danger, they would be able to escape unscathed. Xieling noticed their expressions and shook her head slightly. "I have to remind you that this is only a teleportation talisman. It cannot guarantee your safety in the battlefield in Shura. The environment in there is complicated and danger is everywhere. You may encounter it at any time. If you do not tear this teleportation talisman in time, you will still die in there." Hearing this, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Their relaxed nerves tensed up again. Xieling's gaze swept across the dukes and said, "I know that you have invited many helpers this time. However, these helpers can only assist in seizing the seal. They cannot directly seize the Lingxia seal. There is a seal on the Lingxia seal that is unique to the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Only the bloodline of the Flaming Sun royal family can unlock it." Hearing this, Su Zimo and Xie Qingqing looked at each other. If there was such a restriction, it would add many more variables to this seal-seizing battle. From the predicted rankings on the Heaven ranking, Zhong Feiyu, Lai Xian, and Song Su were ranked 3rd, 4th, and 5th respectively. They were the strongest. However, even if someone among the 3 arrived at the isolated island in the city ahead of time, they would not be able to unlock the seal on the Lingxia seal. The Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom's arrangement obviously had a deeper meaning. This seal-seizing battle would not only test the connections of the dukes, but also the strength of the dukes themselves. At that time, there would most likely be a battle between the various dukes. This rule was extremely disadvantageous for Xie Qingqing. Xie Qingqing's cultivation was only at the level 7 Heaven Immortal realm. Her combat strength was at the bottom among the dukes and dukes. The Heavenly Phoenix Duke, who was predicted to be ranked 10th on the Heaven ranking, had an advantage in this aspect. Xie Qingqing's brows were furrowed with worry. No matter what the rules were, the chances of her seizing the seal were slim. Su Zimo seemed to feel Xie Qingqing's depression. He smiled and said, "When the time comes, do your best. Do not give up until the last moment." Xie Qingqing nodded. "Does anyone have any other questions?" Xieling looked around at the remaining 8 teams. Everyone shook their heads and rubbed their palms. They were ready to enter the battlefield in Shura. Xieling said, "This time, everyone will stay in the battlefield of Shura for a month. During this time, no matter what happens inside, the outside world will not interfere. If there are no other questions, I will activate the teleportation array." "Second brother, hurry up." Xie Tianhuang grinned and urged. He could not wait any longer. Xieling didn't say anything else. A few rays of divine light surged out from her fingertips and sank into the ground at the center of the square. Rays of brilliance instantly blossomed from the ground. Mysterious runes appeared on the surface of the ground and rotated slowly. "Everyone, step onto the teleportation array." Xie Ling added. Hearing this, everyone started to move. The 8 teams on the square all disappeared in a flash of light. In a desolate and dilapidated world, the surroundings were filled with a faint blood-colored mist. Suddenly, a crack appeared in mid-air, and figures fell out from within. Su Zimo, Xie Qingqing, and the other 18 cultivators descended from the sky. They quickly stabilized their bodies and spread out their divine senses to explore their surroundings. The blood-colored mist around them was very faint, but it had a significant impact on their vision and the detection range of their divine senses. Su Zimo stood in the air and frowned slightly. All of them were stained with the faint blood-colored mist around them when they descended. It was like a layer of fascia sticking to their bodies and was extremely uncomfortable. If he was not mistaken, this should be the blood qi that Xie Qingqing mentioned. Su Zimo tried to use a secret technique to activate the six-tusk divine power. As expected, it did not succeed. He felt a strong suppressive force. What kind of blood qi is this? How can it be so powerful? Su Zimo was confused. The six-tusk divine power was inherited from the six-tusk divine elephant. Even in the upper realm, the six-tusk divine elephant was a powerful creature that was not weaker than the dragons. On land, its combat strength might even surpass that of the dragons. Even so, this innate ability was still sealed by the strange baleful blood qi. Without the augmentation of the six-tusk divine power, his combat strength was greatly affected. Look over there. That's the Shura race, right? A cultivator pointed into the distance and murmured softly. The rest of the people looked over and they were all shocked. Although they were high-level heaven immortals, this was the first time they were seeing the Shura race. This Azura lay flat on the ground. There was a huge hole in his chest, and his head was also riddled with holes. However, his body was huge and sturdy. He was over 100 feet tall, and there were 2 horns on his head. Inside his body, there was only deathly stillness. Even though he had been dead for many years, his bronze body still exuded a savage and violent aura. Princess Qingqing, shall we take a closer look? Heaven Immortal Yu Ying suggested. None of us have seen the Shura race before. This is a good opportunity for us to take a look. Who knows, we might be able to obtain some sort of opportunity. This, Xie Qingqing hesitated. Don't go over. Su Zimo looked in that direction and said, hurry up and leave this place. But Heaven Immortal Yu Ying frowned. She could not help but feel a hint of displeasure towards Su Zimo in her tone. He had just made a suggestion but was rejected by Su Zimo. Naturally, he felt embarrassed. Near the corpse of the Shura race, the Duke of Sky-bearing descended with a group of heaven immortals. Right then, 2 beams of red light shot out from the empty eye sockets of the corpse of the Shura race that was originally dead and rotting. Swoosh. Then, the Azura tribe member seemed to have woken up. He sat up abruptly and waved his hand toward the crowd. The Duke of Sky-bearing's group was too close to the corpse of the Shura race. The 100 heaven immortals gathered together and thought that it was just a corpse of the Shura race. None of them expected the corpse to stand up and attack. Most of the heaven immortals reacted extremely quickly and scattered. Chapter 2496. The heavenly immortals on the side of the sky-bearing Duke suppressed their initial fear and were enraged. They all attacked the Azura tribe member. In an instant, divine weapons, Dharma treasures, divine abilities, and secret techniques descended and bombarded the battered body of the Shura. Not long after, this Azura tribe member was cut into 8 pieces by the Duke of Sky-bearing's men. His body was torn into pieces and he couldn't be more dead. Xie Qingqing and the others looked solemn. After all, this was just the corpse of Ashura. Even so, it was still a huge threat to the group of sky immortals. If the Shura possessed a physical body and bloodline, how terrifying would they be when they were at their peak? In this Azura battlefield, it was unknown how many of such powerful and troublesome Azura clansmen were left. Let's go. Xie Qingqing compared the map of the battlefield of the Shura and walked toward the central area. This was the first time that everyone had entered the battlefield of the Shura. Because they were not familiar with the environment, They did not walk quickly and constantly observed their surroundings. Along the way, they could see that the battlefield was desolate. There were corpses everywhere and countless broken weapons were scattered on the ground. In some places, the corpses were piled up into mountains. Under the cover of the blood mist, they were faintly discernible and looked extremely shocking. One could imagine how tragic the battle was back then. Among the corpses, there were traces of many different living beings. The battle back then could have involved thousands of living beings. Look over there. At this moment, a skinny cultivator behind them pointed in a direction not far away. Under a broken corpse, there seemed to be something emitting a weak green light. Almost everything in the battlefield of the Shura was dilapidated and dim. Along the way, the ball of green light not far away was the only source of light. A treasure! Almost at the same time, a thought flashed through everyone's mind. To be able to emit light after countless years, this treasure must be supported by an extremely powerful force. With the blood mist blocking it, everyone could not see it clearly. Looking at its outline, it seemed to be a bumpy rock. Xie Ling had said that there were some fortuitous encounters in the battlefield of the Shura. It was up to their own luck. I'll go take a look. The skinny cultivator could no longer hold himself back. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, he prepared to leave. Don't go. Su Zimo frowned slightly and stopped him in time. Brother Su, what's wrong? Xie Qingqing's heart skipped a beat and asked hurriedly, did you see something wrong? I don't know. Su Zimo's head shook his head. He couldn't tell what the stone-emitting green light was, but his spirit perception could sense a trace of danger. Hearing Su Zimo, they did not dare to be careless. They quickly spread their divine senses and scanned the area several times but did not find anything strange. Let's go, said. Although he did not find any problems, he was still willing to trust Su Zimo. However, the others were hesitant. After all, nobody wanted to miss out on a treasure that was so close. What if it was some sort of great opportunity that could change one's fate and soar into the heavens? Yu Ying's heart was itching as well. However, he did not dare to act rashly. Rolling his eyes, he came up with a plan and asked tentatively, fellow Taoist Su, aren't you being a little too cautious? The skinny cultivator who first discovered the treasure was already impatient to begin with. When he heard that, he said hurriedly, that's right. You guys stay here and don't move. I'll go take a look. Su Zimo had only met these people by chance and did not have much of a relationship with them. It was already benevolent of him to remind them once. If he insisted on stopping them, he might cause the other party to resent him instead. Su Zimo no longer persuaded and merely said indifferently, I can ensure everyone's safety within 100 feet radius. If anything happens beyond that, I won't be able to save you. The position of the green light stone was clearly beyond 100 feet radius. Su Zimo's words were actually a warning to the other party. However, the skinny cultivator did not appreciate it and muttered, you didn't see anything wrong either, did you? Furthermore, I have the teleportation talisman with me. Even if there's danger, I can escape. As he said that, the skinny cultivator took out the teleportation talisman and gripped it in his hands, ready to tear it apart at any moment. In reality, apart from Su Zimo, none of the cultivators who followed Xie Qingqing into the battlefield of Shura truly wanted to help her obtain the seal. That was because, in everyone's opinion, that was something that was completely impossible. The reason why everyone followed her into the battlefield of Shura was because of the treasures and opportunities here. Right now, the treasures and opportunities were right before their eyes. As long as they could obtain them, they could just tear apart the teleportation talisman and leave this place even if they encountered danger. As for the matter of obtaining the seal, none of them were too concerned. Be careful. Seeing that she could not stop them, Xie Qingqing could only remind them. Nodding his head, the skinny cultivator gripped the teleportation talisman in his left hand and walked over slowly. Although he did not take Su Zimo's warning seriously, he did not dare to be careless. Along the way, he was tense and spread his spirit consciousness, keeping his eyes and ears open. He was prepared to crush the teleportation talisman in his hands the moment there was any movement. In the blink of an eye, The skinny cultivator was already 100 feet away without encountering any danger. After a while, he finally arrived before the stone that was emitting a green glow. The surroundings were still silent without any abnormalities. The skinny cultivator calmed down and heaved a sigh of relief. He stared at the stone in front of him and frowned slightly. The stone was shaped like a camel's hump and was uneven. There were some sparse green hairs growing on it, but it was not a green glow. The skinny cultivator had never seen something like that before and squatted down instinctively, wanting to take a closer look. Right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The ground split open and a rusty fork broke out of the ground, piercing the skinny cultivator's chest instantly. Immediately after, the camel-shaped stone charged out as well, revealing an ugly face. Suddenly, it opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the skinny cultivator's head. The change here was too fast, too sudden. Exclamation point. In a daze, the skinny cultivator's neck was bitten and fresh blood gushed out. Even so, it still had such a powerful and terrifying killing method. If it was a living yaksha, what kind of existence would it be? Brother Su, thank you for saving my life. Xie Qingqing hurriedly thanked him, still in fear. Let's get out of here quickly. Su Zimo said in a low voice. The commotion just now should have alerted some of the living creatures on the battlefield. As expected, before Su Zimo finished speaking, roars and roars came from the depths of the blood fog in the distance. Although they could not see the exact location, it was clear that other Shura beings, some powerful demon beasts, and even yakshas had awakened. The roars became more and more frequent, as if there were terrifying creatures like the Azura tribe in all directions. What should we do? Heaven Immortal Yu Ying and the others were panicking. The enthusiasm they had when they first entered the battlefield of the Shura quickly cooled down after seeing several Heaven Immortals die one after another. Everyone only wanted to come in and get some opportunities, but no one wanted to lose their lives. Princess Qingqing, we seem to have been surrounded. Heaven Immortal Yu Ying whispered, why don't we tear the teleportation talisman and leave this place? Seizing the seal is a small matter, but if we lose our lives because of it, the losses will outweigh the gains. Xie Qingqing clenched her fists slightly, feeling indignant. They had just entered and were they going to retreat? Right then, Su Zimo said, if you want to stay, follow me closely. Try not to be too far away from me. Don't be more than 100 feet away from me. With that, Su Zimo took the lead and walked forward. Xie Qingqing's spirits were lifted as she hurried forward and walked side by side with Su Zimo. Heaven Immortal Yu Ying and the others looked at each other and hesitated for a moment before bracing themselves and following. Everyone felt that it would be embarrassing to leave now. Although they were following behind Su Zimo, everyone took out their teleportation talismans and held them in their palms just in case, ready to tear them apart and leave at any time. Su Zimo's direction was generally correct. However, along the way, he would often deviate from his original path. Occasionally, he would walk to the side or take a big detour, as if he was hiding from something. There was no pattern to these paths, as if Su Zimo was doing it randomly. Although everyone was puzzled, they did not dare to leave the group. Just now, another yaksha appeared. This time round, the yaksha suddenly burst through the blood mist from the skies and pounced towards everyone. However, before the yaksha could even touch them, its head was pierced by a few streams of heaven-slaying sword chi from Su Zimo's fingertips and it died completely. This time round, everyone was still caught off guard. This yaksha was different from the one just now. Although they both had menacing expressions, this yaksha had a pair of thin flesh wings beneath its ribs that connected its arms and legs. When it descended from the skies, it was like a gigantic bat. With that change, everyone chose to follow closely behind Su Zimo. No one dared to go beyond 50 feet, let alone 100 feet. Strangely enough, after half a day, the roars and roars that were initially around them actually got further and further away and gradually faded away. Although they were ambushed along the way, there were not many living beings that stopped them, only one or two of them. Furthermore, each time they encountered danger, Su Zimo would warn them in advance. Now that everyone was prepared and joined forces, They were able to eliminate the danger before long and continue forward. A day passed and everyone did not encounter any major danger along the way. There were no large-scale Shura beings, yakshas or demon beasts blocking their path either. It was as though under Su Zimo's lead, everyone managed to escape from the encirclement of the Shura beings and other powerful living beings unscathed.